Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 213. Hi, I'm Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Bangarang.
Connor's also here.
Yep, still here.
What's a bannerang? Is that something specific, or?
Yeah, Bangarang. Haven't you ever seen Hook?
I mean, I did a long time ago. It was very forgettable, Matt, if I'm honest with you.
Oh, forgettable. It is not.
It's
Robin Williams as Peter Pan is not forgettable.
I remember him floating at one point. I remember Dustin Hoffman hamming it up, but that's about it.
Yes. Fantastic.
I remember all the kids chanting, "You're doing it, Peter! You're doing it, Peter!" Because it was like nestled into my brain because my name's Peter and it was weird. But that's all I remember. Otherwise, it was forgettable.
You don't remember the fake food fight?
Nah, not really.
It's apparently supposed to be food, but it looks like neon paint. I'm like, what the hell do they eat in Wonderland?
Oh, you mean
Neverland?
That's how I felt every time we watched an old episode of Star Trek, like the original series. All their food, it was maybe like fruit looking, but it was always just too colorful to actually be real food.
Yeah.
It looked like sort of colorful blocks of stuff. It was weird.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so we have DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC Comics every week on the show. Coming up on this week's episode, we have Death Metal Legends of the Dark Knight issue 1, the first of our tie-ins to the book. We got Strange Adventures issue 4, DCeased Dead Planet issue 2, Batman 96, Justice League 50, Young Justice 17, and Far Sector number 7. Assuming I've not forgotten anything, that is the books of the week.
No, but I'll be honest, I didn't read Justice League 50 because I didn't realize it was out this week. I missed it in my list, and oops.
Yes, the double-sized issue, conveniently.
I genuinely, until you just said that now, I had no idea it was out. I genuinely didn't know.
I mean, I could swap it with Young Justice if you want to go read it while we're talking about Young Justice.
It's a double-sized issue. I'm good. I'll watch the snooker.
Oh, bloody hell. So that's what's coming up on the week's show as far as comics go. Obviously, there's one bit of news, really, and that's pretty much it. So, 213. I suppose the big thing we have to talk about is they kind of solidified this week. Not that there's any new information per se, outside of maybe some of people who are attending, but DC Fandom, because they've got a stupid title for it, they're doing their online convention, DC only, in a couple of weeks' time. It's on a Saturday. And I'm actually confused as to whether or not we're going to have news that day. And the first hand I thought, well, it starts pretty much when we start recording the podcast, so all the news will be a week old and we'll get to it the following week. Sucks, but no biggie. However, I'm not entirely sure if you can access everything immediately, so there's a chance that everything might actually be able to find online by the time you're finished.
I don't think so, because it's a 24-hour event that they're running, so I think they'll be releasing things over the day.
I guess, but it's like a virtual con floor where you can go into the different rooms.
Yeah, I think they're going to be doing virtual panels where they'll be announcing things.
Okay. But that's in a couple of weeks. That's like the 22nd or something like that, whatever that Saturday is that week.
It is, yes, the 22nd, and it starts bang as we record, so we probably won't get much.
Yeah, we may have one breaking news item or something before the end of the show, but otherwise we'll see you.
But there is a lot of people attending that they put out a whole big list. I say attending, it's a virtual thing.
Well, yeah, they'll be on the conference calls.
Yeah, but there was comic creators in there. I noticed. I think Cecil Castellucci was in there, who's obviously been doing some work for the last 2 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the bigger one is that Mark Waid's name was on that list, right?
I was getting to that. Start with some of the smaller ones.
Don't bury the lead.
Mark Waid at the end.
Mark Waid, I don't want to just yell it's happening at the top of my lungs, but
and he may be reteaming with a certain high-profile artist. This is not from that list, but Alex Ross posted something on his Instagram. It was a DC draw. I don't remember exactly what it was now, but it was a DC drawing, and it was officially tagged and then got taken down.
Hold on a second now. We're talking about Mark Waid, Alex Ross. There's only one story that conjures in my mind when I put those two names together.
Earth X.
Yeah. Of course, I know what the thing was he posted. It was a picture of I would say a painting that he did, a close up of Starfire's face.
Okay.
With the hashtag.
The gasp from Matt. That was a literal gasp.
It was. Hashtag coming soon and hashtag breaking news.
Ooh.
So implies an actual announcement rather than just him doing a commission or a piece.
I mean, if I was to make a guess here, just based on nothing but one teaser image of Starfire. If I was to make one little thing here, I would say are they going to do like a Titans-esque Kingdom Come? Is that where this is going?
I mean,
have no idea what exactly it's going to be, but I'm intrigued.
her and Dick's daughter were a minor character in Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like Wade is unfamiliar.
I mean, it could.
So-
It's there's no guarantee that this is it's these pair working together. These are two, as of right now, unrelated
Right.
news stories. But
Yeah, a bit of detective work here says that there
Yeah.
could be connections. There could be get your red string out and put it on the board and.
Yeah, like Mark Wade's cool, but you know who else is gonna be there? Looking at this that I found,
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that's more of a nostalgia panel than it's going to be an announcement of something new.
Are we
but...
sure it's even gonna be him?
What are you suggesting?
He's been a bit of a recluse in recent years, and when he's not a recluse, he's been cosplaying as Mark Twain.
Interesting.
Yeah.
okay,
So, and I know it was for a project. He was doing a stage show where he was Mark Twain, and he did the whole method thing. So, yeah, man.
yeah,
Val Kilmer.
things that just tangentially related at this point, but we want to talk about it because we already recorded our last Doom Patrol review, and that was for the season, and we were speculating about our hopes for the upcoming announcement, maybe at this event. This was before this list of names was announced, and then I see it and I spot a couple of Doom Patrol actors in there, and I'm like, okay, that gives me a reasonable excuse to assume we're going to get an announcement then.
I would hope that they'll announce a season 3 of fandom. I really do. And this is probably as good a place as any to talk about how underwhelming that stupid video game announcement was from Rocksteady after 5 years of mystery. Just casually on Twitter.
They spent 3 months doing weekly teases as well, really obscure teases of basically nothing.
Yeah.
I want to apologize if anyone came across that thread and saw me being just a right dick, but nobody tagged me in what they were talking about. There was no one tagged me in the image of the target on Superman. So a friend is saying that Superman's gonna die. I'm thinking he's talking about a video game project that I don't give two shits about. And I'm like, why am I being bothered by this?
I'll give you the context. So, just for everyone who's not seen it, is Rocksteady, who obviously made the Arkham Batman games, they put out an image this week that looked like Superman from behind, or some people are speculating it could be Bizarro. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. And it's got it says the word Suicide Squad, but it makes a crosshair on the back of his head. So, implying that if they're not going after Bizarro, that the plot of the game will be either going after maybe an Injustice-style universe version of the Justice League, or even just a mind-controlled Superman or whatever it might be. But basically they said, hey, we're doing a Suicide Squad game, and given that they have been so secretive for the last several years about what their next project is, and everyone's been kind of speculating, it's a DC property probably, but no one knows which one it is. Could it be this? Could it be that? It's actually insane to me that they just farted it out like this.
And it's a little unusual as well, because we were under the assumption there was a Suicide Squad game coming, but we thought it was going to be Warner Bros. Montreal who did the Origins game, because that had a tease to Suicide Squad at the end.
Well, given that game also introduced some stuff that was used in Arkham Knight in terms of the story, it's not actually that unreasonable to think that maybe that they intentionally teased a Suicide Squad game because Rocksteady had already decided that's what we're doing after Knight. So
absolutely possible. But so it wasn't like an out of left field announcement.
But it's worth mentioning though that we only thought they were doing Suicide Squad for a couple of years. For the last year or so, that actually changed because WB Montreal started teasing a Court of Owls Batman game instead. So it seems like they've kind of switched, where now Rocksteady is doing the Suicide Squad game, and WB Montreal are doing a Court of Owls Batman game. I
suspect that there was no internal switching in that sense. More just there was a miscommunication with the leaked information.
Yeah, just our perception. I don't mean they actually literally. Yeah. I mean, Rocksteady literally switched in the sense that they were doing Batman games before, but not in this project.
And honestly, we know so little about the game. There are rumors, it's going to be this or that. But until we actually have any details, it's not really worth worrying yet.
Mm-hmm.
But just in terms of an announcement, when you're 2 weeks away from a big thing to reveal your game out, just wait.
And they did say
you've waited 3 years already. At least just wait the extra 2 weeks.
And they did say that they put in the tweet like, hey, August 22nd, like this coming. And
Yeah.
I actually saw someone argue online, well, this is not the announcement, this is just teasing the announcement. No, it's not a tease. If they tell us what the game is, it's not a tease anymore. This is the announcement. We now know what it is.
Yeah, they could have just put like anything and gone, oh, there's a game. We have an announcement coming on the 22nd. We would have gone, okay, it's a DC game, which wouldn't have been a big surprise. It's pretty much what we're all expecting anyway, but it wouldn't have necessarily narrowed down the options from where we were already.
Yeah. I mean, there are rumors about what the game is, and I'm not particularly excited about it.
I don't want to worry about those.
Yeah. Not the concept of like a Suicide Squad game. I'm cool with a Suicide Squad game. More just the type of game that it's going to be. But that's something that I'll complain about at length. Well, I've already done it on Twitter, but I mean, I'll do it again properly once it's announced.
But anyways, I just want to apologize to people who saw me. I had zero context for. And I'm working outside all week, and it's hot, and I'm just like, why is someone trying to drag me into a conversation about Superman, about video games? And then me and Pete had a little tete-a-tete about me not caring about games. So
I was just trying to wind Matt up. I was not there to troll you about Superman.
It's only because he hasn't played God of War yet. He'll care when he does that.
He's got trophies in two other games.
Yeah, well, I also Tony Hawk Pro Skater's coming out. So
I'm looking forward to that. That's probably the next thing I'm getting.
They all have that day one. I didn't have any other games day one. That one though, that's my teenage years. That was the. I just gotta have time to kill. I want to play Tony Hawk.
Yeah. On the subject of comic video games, though, the Avengers beta is going on right now on the PlayStation, and it looks just as dull as it did before, from what I've
honestly,
watched.
From the hands-on that people have talked about, I haven't played it myself. From the people who've played it all, all the content that are in it, the people who got it early. Apparently, all the main missions are really, really great, and it plays well, and it's good story in the main missions. All of the side stuff is pointless and boring. So it's just like, well, if you play just the main missions, it seems okay. So I mean, depends how much content there is in that.
I mean, if the story looks interesting enough, I'll get it at some point when it's really cheap. But there's nothing about it that makes me want to even consider diving in early. But hey. So that was that. So that's all the fandom stuff that's been teased. In terms of actual news that dropped this week, obviously I imagine DC are saving most of what they've got that's interesting for fandom.
We still have the solicits for November next week, unless they really want to hold them back.
Which they've done before. They have held them back a week before for things like this.
Unless they want to hold them back over a week.
That said, it could be that November doesn't have that much new in it, so they can just put those out and then have all the announcements. Because we know that Endless Winter is coming in December, so if they're going to announce stuff for Endless Winter and really tell us what that is at fandom, that makes sense, and it wouldn't be spoiling November solicits.
Yeah, and fandom could be where we learn. It could almost be the WonderCon Rebirth panel that we had that kicked everything off. That's in advance. And just like, okay, this is the next stage of what's coming after metal.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that this is the post-death metal slate that we're going to get. I mean, it might not be, but
we might be being optimistic there, but we can hope.
But I mean, do we expect them to have another event like 2 months later to do that, or even one? Well, it'd be 1 month later because the solicits for these things would have to be coming out in December. So
yeah,
at the latest. Well, not the latest, but at the latest for the first ones, if they're going to be staggered, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But so
we'll see in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm kind of hoping. So hopefully, not in 2 weeks because again it's on as we're recording the podcast, but in the 3 weeks from now, hopefully we'll have a nice big chunk of juicy news to dig into. And if we don't,
hopefully
then
not too many books that week.
We'll find out. So yes, but the actual news that dropped this week. There's a couple of one-shots, and Connor casually mentioned this, and I assumed, until I sort of processed what he said to me, I thought he meant just 2 more death metal one-shots. But what he actually was telling me is that there was 2 more Tales from the Dark Multiverse one-shots, which, we had like a run of those.
Some good, some okay, a couple not too hot.
I would say surprisingly, I'd say there was more good than bad. There was 1 or 2 that I thought were a bit iffy, but for the most part,
Blackest Night wasn't as good.
Yeah, but the rest of them were pretty good.
Rough. Judas Contract was just okay at best.
Oh sure, but like Death of Superman,
the main one was great though.
Yeah, Nightfall,
Infinite Crisis,
Infinite Crisis 1. Yeah, those were all pretty good. So they did a couple more of these. So we're getting Tales from the Dark Multiverse Flashpoint, which
oh boy,
interesting. With the writer artist Brian Hitch, so that maybe puts your expectations in place there for that. And then
Wow.
Tales from the Dark Side, Batman Hush by Philip Kennedy Johnson.
And Dexter Soy on out.
And Dexter Soy. I mean, Dexter
Ooh,
Soy's
okay.
a bit of a selling point there. I'll give him that.
Honestly, I think it's weird because even though I'm more intrigued by the team, or mainly Dexter Soy on Hush, I think Flashpoint's an easier one to see what the Dark Multiverse version of that story is, right?
Sure.
It's easier to see, okay, shit doesn't get fixed, right? It's kind of, okay, I can go along that route and understand it.
Yeah. I mean, Hush
Whereas
wins.
Hush, I'm like, what goes exactly wrong there? Like, what does that spiral into?
Hush wins. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there is a description.
Mm-hmm.
If a world where Flashpoint reality was never undone, where Thomas Wayne still haunts Gotham City. So yeah, it's pretty much what I just said. The Hush one. What if Tommy had ruined Bruce's life when they were children? Okay. Tommy Elliott grew up to be the Dark Prince of Gotham City with the help of Talia al Ghul, Oswald Cobblepot, Harvey Dent, and Jason Todd. But vengeance is coming in the form of Batman the Silenced. Okay, so this isn't Hush 1. It's very different.
No, what I'm getting from this is that Tommy grows up to be a bandaged-looking version of Batman. That's what the front cover is. And presumably Bruce is the one who sort of shows up in his life later on for
Hush.
vengeance, yeah. Or whatever the equivalent's going to be.
I think actually that bandaged Batman might be Bruce in this world.
Oh, maybe. But I think the point of it is him that shows up in Tommy's life as an adult.
Right.
For revenge is what I'm getting from that.
Yeah.
So, alright, there you go. A couple of one-shots, presumably coming in November since they're talking about them now. Right before we get the November solicits. In fact, it actually tells us here. November 17th for Flashpoint, and November...
Hush is November 3rd.
3rd for Hush. So, okay. Couple of books for November. So we'll see. I'm not, like, super pumped. Definitely Hush because of the team's a bit more exciting art-wise, at least. I have no...
Yeah.
That said, if Brian Hitch brings his A-game on his art for this, then I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I have a soft spot for the idea of Hush, and the Dini stuff, like Heart of Hush, that followed up was pretty good.
Yeah,
So...
I've said before, Hush is a great introductory story, but it's not like a standout on its own.
No.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's basically all the news we have for you. I'd make more time for small talk, but Matt's got hockey playoffs later. In fact, we even started recording earlier. So Matt can make sure he gets the start of his hockey games. So.
I do. I was hoping that the game wouldn't be starting as early, but because of the way the playoffs are structured this year, it really was dependent on other teams being eliminated or not. So I didn't even find out until last night that the game starts early my time. So, and I told him either we could get done before I could miss, or I could watch as we're recording, which helps nobody. You know. So.
I mean, it would have just been the tail end, but we started a little bit earlier, so hopefully that won't be a...
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, I'll have it on as well.
Yeah, that's great. Two of the two people paying their attention to hockey, because Cora's decided to become a hockey fan all of a sudden this week.
Hey,
no, we've been over
easy.
this before. Matt, how many times have I talked to you about hockey in the past and been annoyed that I can't watch it?
Yes, and I do know that you have your local teams actually pretty decent.
Yeah,
from your hometown. So
yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
I recently, like just this week, found a way to watch it legally here in the UK, and I'm like, oh, now I can get into it properly. So here I am.
Well, they got a streaming service or what? What they got going?
No. Turns out if you use one of the betting websites, if you put any sort of small bet on, they let you stream the game because no one has any streaming rights in the UK.
Oh, so you just put on like a little cheap bet and
like a 50p bet, which is like 65 cents, and then just like, all right, watch the game.
And I don't sports gamble despite living close to the gambling mecca of like the world. But I told Ash, I mean, if there was a way that I couldn't watch hockey and I had to spend 65 cents, I might develop a problem. You know.
Yeah, and sports gambling in the UK is so common. It's like such a normal thing for so many people to do because you just do it on online, on your phone, got an app, just sit there and do it. It's do it in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it's not a legal issue. That was one of the weird things growing up is realizing that most of America it's illegal to actually gamble. I was like,
that was bizarre when I learned that.
We didn't even have really in sport in like during the game betting wasn't even big until a couple of years ago, even out here, when tablets made everything a lot easier. Because we have big, huge sports books out here where so on the same line, you place a bet, you can go in and watch basically anything that they have they're offering bets on. But the advent of technology to have it right in front of you and you can make bets as stuff's happening.
No, I think it's a good idea that Matt doesn't start bet. I mean, I've never gambled myself, but I think it's a good idea that Matt doesn't start because I can just see the uncut gems scenarios playing out.
This is how I win. No, I don't. I've never made a sports bet because it is pretty dodgy. And I know a lot of people that take it way too seriously, and I'm just like, I don't care about your betting. I want to watch, and I know this sounds pretentious. I like it for the sanctity of the sport. Like I could just put on, baseball or hockey or football, and watch for the game.
If it's a team I support, if it's my team, I can be, but I love this. If I have no stake in it in that sense, then just 50p on the line, you might win.
Yeah,
that makes it more exciting.
And I get you get more invested, but at the same time, I can, if you like the sport enough, like when it comes to soccer, I can watch the World Cup, but any other time I'm not putting it on, so it is what it is. But early game, this wild, crazy playoffs that are going off, teams dropping left and right, and some of these teams that made the playoffs because of the way the NHL did the draft, even though they made the playoffs, now they have a shot at getting the first overall pick in the draft. It makes no sense. And you have some of these really stacked teams losing in the first round, and now
it's
they're
wide open. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, they're going to be put in a lottery to win the first pick. It's insane this year, man. So, but it's been very exciting, and that's all I've watched for like a week now. I've watched some episodes of Harley Quinn. They added those to HBO Max. It is really good. Like Connor was saying, but also it doesn't sound like Kaylee Cuoco. She does a really good job at voice acting.
I think it's because she's putting on the accent, and it just
a little bit.
It.
When she's Harleen, like she's having conversations with herself.
Yeah,
she sounds like Kaylee Cuoco, but when she's Harley, there is some voice acting going on there.
Yeah, she's actually
just pretty
good.
cool. Yeah. So, so
everyone on that show is great in terms of the voice.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk's Clayface is particularly gold.
He's an actor. But yeah, so all I've watched over the last week is a little bit of Harley Quinn, and then hockey and baseball. So, yeah.
No Dynamite then? No.
Oh no, I watched some Dynamite. I kind of only half watched just because it's it's not fine. It's not that. It's just
Dynamite episode this week.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like it's not bad. When I look over Reddit and see what they're doing over in WWE, yes, Dynamite is fantastic. There's peaks and valleys, and like when you're only giving Mox and Darby 15 minutes of showtime to have a match, you kind of know what directions it's heading. So
the ending was really good though, but the opening 12-man with the storytelling, everything with Kenny, the Bucks,
so
Hangman,
much going on.
FDR, all that stuff, wonderful. All the figure four teas with all of them. Storytelling.
Yep. Right. So again, it's fine.
I only brought that up later on Connor because he was sitting there talking about sports.
It's fine. I haven't even touched on the snooker yet. There was a whole controversy. Two players nearly came to blows today in snooker.
Oh, fun!
It's bizarre.
Wait, are there rules against using a stick as a weapon?
I mean, it's supposed to be a very gentlemanly sport, and there's a lot of etiquette involved. But yeah, it was intense this afternoon.
Well, Pete, Connor sent me a snooker video, and I'm sitting there watching it before bed. Now she's like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Connor sent it to me. He said I have to watch. I don't really know what's going on, but it's fine." So I had all these questions. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Yeah.
For some reason, I actually have a decent understanding of the rules of snooker. I don't know why.
I think most British people do, even if they don't care about the sport. I think it's because it's always on TV when the big events are on. That you pick it up like cultural osmosis. I guess.
If I happen to have a table in a room, I would go and use it. Like,
but I mean, like, back in the 80s, like snooker was as big as football in the UK. Like it was huge. Like so, there's been like a cultural osmosis where people just kind of
Just get it.
understand it. Yeah, it's kind of like Americans and baseball.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, once you start digging
Sure,
stuff,
there's
there's
nitty-gritty, but
colloquialisms.
most people will get the basics, whereas I wouldn't even
Right,
get
well,
the basics.
Well, it helps too when it's part of your language. Stuff like first base.
Wait, what's difficult to understand about baseball? Baseball's like one of the easiest sports to grasp.
No, but there are
No.
sayings that people say, like
Yeah.
they'll use, not first, but some other ones that I know that are phrases that are baseball related that I did not know until later that's where that comes from because I don't understand baseball enough.
Okay.
Yeah. No, baseball on its face is easy, but once you start getting into the minutia of it, that's to me where the sport really lives, is in the little things. It's it's a chess match between the pitcher and the batter. Where are you gonna swing, delay. That's all this other stuff. But anyways, yeah, I'm watching these snooker, and then I have to, of course, I need to know. And then I find out that the sport was basically created by the later Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much more British than that.
Yeah.
Like you
What do you
can't.
mean the name Neville Chamberlain? No, I agree. It doesn't get more English than
Well,
the
I
name
just mean like the
Neville
guy
Chamberlain.
that created the sport while occupying India goes on to become prime minister. Like,
What do you
because they were,
expect?
yeah, like it's a very British
It's
sport.
a very English sport at its core, but it has a lot of international audience now, especially China.
Yeah.
China and Thailand,
Well,
that area.
Yeah,
Huge on
the Asian countries love the little intricate type
Mm.
sports. Table tennis, and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I know when my dad went to Japan, he said the stuff that they covered in the sports section on TV, it's just basically everything from darts, table tennis. I'm trying to think of like shuffleboard. Like there's shuffleboard leagues and
That's
whatnot.
crazy.
They get
Yeah.
covered. They even cover wrestling like an actual sport. Like they cover it in the newspaper where they cover the wins and losses in the sports section and whatnot. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I can see how China would take to snooker
Mm.
after watching that video you sent me the one time.
Excellent.
It's a good video.
Yeah. Speaking of video, I actually watched a really good analysis of it was actually like 2 months old because she put out like a new episode. I can't remember the name of the YouTuber, but it was like an analysis of basically she's done a series on Snyder and like how Snyder makes movies, and it was an analysis of a scene in Superman the movie where Superman rescues a cat. And it was a really good analysis of everything that's in the scene that kind of like reinforces the idea of who Superman is and how he treats people and how he's someone of the people and how he even teaches the girl a lesson of empathy when she's complaining about the cat and how the angry mother shouting out of the house actually is kind of like you can see where her initial like lack of empathy comes from. It was a whole thing.
Right.
Superman kind of ejected it, but more importantly, how none of Man of Steel or Batman v
Has any of
Superman
that.
does anything like that.
No,
It was just
because
wonderful little analysis. I enjoyed that.
when the only way, your only window through Superman is that he's an alien and that you want to turn him into the villain of the Justice League movie, of course you're not going to get any of the empathy and the stuff that actually makes Superman work because you don't care about that.
It's funny.
I meant to watch that video, Pete, and I just
Yeah,
so you just reminded me.
I pointed it out to Matt, but it was funny because I was watching it and then I got to the end and I was kind of sitting there thinking about it and I was like, I've not really been thinking about Zack Snyder's Superman in a while. I mean, yeah, I'll make a grumbly noise and maybe make fun of it a little bit when it comes up in subject and in conversation, but I got to the end of it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's going to be a new cut of Justice League that has Zack Snyder's Superman in it, and I really don't want it. I just don't want it.
And just do what I'm doing and just don't watch it.
No, because me reacting and talking about it is going to be great content. And Matt too. So
it's almost the anniversary of the worst review I was ever part of, and that was the Fantastic Fan-4-Stick I just saw years ago. Today was the date that I saw the movie.
All right. Okay.
And I just remember sitting on that. You can, if it's still up, you can watch me die inside as it's going. So yeah. Oh man.
Some movies deserve to be ripped apart for the seams. All right, let's get to the comic book, shall we? Death Metal, Legends of the Dark Knight issue 1, by various. We'll sort of say the creators as we go through it. It's multiple stories. So this was kind of a weird concoction of a book, I would say.
It is a grab bag for sure.
It's very much in the vein of the recent specials they've had.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, part of it, like, there's things in here that I kind of like. There's things in here that I thought were kind of a waste of time, and then there was actually some stuff that went so far over into like absurd comic book stuff that I started laughing at how ridiculous some of it was.
I'm assuming the thing of the last story there.
The Garthinus.
Well, I mean, that was pretty ridiculous. But no, I was even during the first one, which was the sort of the main one by Snyder, Tynion, and Williamson. At one point, he refers to himself, or the version who like, becomes Manhattan, as Batmanhattan, and I just started laughing at how stupid it was. And I know they know how stupid that is. I know that there's some intentional winking at us here with that, but
yeah, are they working so heel, Pete, that like they're doing so like they're Shawn Michaeling it up? Like they're trying to make me hate this.
Maybe I was almost getting like like Demo God, Le Champion revives from some of this shit.
And that's what I mean. Like, are they going so far in that direction where I'm like, it's legit heat? Because I hated that story. Like, I hated the Batman Who Laughs. I hate this Darkest Night even more. But at the same time, I see the intent that that's the point of that. It is calling out that trope of Batman wins, as look how ridiculous this is.
Yeah. The first there's like 4 2-page layouts at the start, which are basically just recapping everything. This just kind of felt like, why is it like? I mean, I was gonna say 4. It's more like 8 pages because it's all 2-page layouts. I was like, why is it 8 pages of this crap at the start, just recapping everything? It felt a bit redundant to me.
Though.
Well, yeah, it's I'm drawing a blank on the art.
It's Tony Daniel.
Tony Daniel, thank you. It's Daniel being like, I want to draw this stuff because he really is bringing it, and so he's doing his version of stuff. Like there's a page of the Chainsaw of Truth. And I was like, she's not holding. Oh yeah, it's invisible. I forgot. Like for a brief second, but it looks fantastic. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it really this first story, which is definitely the longest and the most relevant to what's going on, is very much just kind of trying to add a bit more to the motivations of the Batman Who Laughs, and kind of he's always kind of been playing against Perpetua. He's always wanted to ultimately rise above her.
It kind of goes back to that stuff that we were talking about in the last main issue of Metal. Of is this still the Batman Who Laughs, or is it something else now because of the Manhattan stuff? And I think the answer is it's something different. There is a core of Batman Who Laughs in there, but it does feel different after this.
Potentially, I don't know. I kind of feel like it is him, like, because his motivation's been there the whole time. At the very least, all this narration comes from the moment when he sort of turned on inside the new body.
Yeah, but so I know where Connor's coming from, where the Batman Who Laughs was only a stop in order to get the Darkest Night, right? Like, he is fully formed now. This is the ultimate. He is the Bat God now, right?
Yes.
He is the ultimate corruption of Batman Wins. And again, I love that as a concept. I hate reading the dialogue.
I want to bring up something else that made me laugh in the narration. So it gets to this idea that he's like, every version of Batman, good and bad, across the multiverse and the dark multiverse, they all have one thing in common. They're all reactionary to what happens in the alleyway, right? And he wants to become the Bullet. He wants to become the one that like actually is acting first. So I want to read just this just a couple of text boxes here.
I feel like I know exactly which text boxes you're going to read here as well.
I will be the Bullet. The multiverse will be the dark alley, and its worlds will fall like pearls before me.
I kind of love how cheesy it was. It's right on that line.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's way over the line, and I was laughing hysterically at it, and I'm not sure how intentional the laughter that I'm having is. Like, do they think this is cool, or do they know how silly this is?
I think they know how silly it is. I mean, that was the way I was reading it, which is why I was saying, it's the cheesy I can get behind, is that they're aware that it's kind of stupid, and that's why it's this ultimately stupid villain that is saying it and is going to be beaten, because of course he's going to be beaten. Look at him. That was kind of the way I was taking it, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I have no problem with that. Really, it's just there was multiple times throughout this narration where he was naming things or saying stuff like the worlds will be the pearls falling to the ground, that I just started cackling with laughter.
I mean, there is a piece of Joker in him, right? So, Joker has bad taste when it comes to jokes and puns. So why would, Batman Who Laughs
I mean,
Not?
if you do read this as a Joker-esque line of dialogue, which ultimately, that's what this Batman is, I think it kind of works.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. The page where the Darkest Knight's holding all the worlds is pretty nice. I'll give it the art that at the very least.
Yeah. The Batman Manhattan one where he's got the blue, and he's looking up, and you have all the other dark Batman that are there. I think that's a really cool page too, because like you have the Batman that's Bane and the Mr. Freeze, right? And they have the Prometheus Batman gunning down Penguin. You have some weird caveman Batman that looks like he's cooking pieces of the Joker.
Yeah, he's Cannibal Batman.
Yeah, right. And then on the opposite page, you have like Ra's al Ghul Batman and a Court of Owls. Like it's a really cool, but I was trying to pinpoint the one holding the chalice. Like, is that meant to be like Azrael? Or what?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure on that one, if I'm honest. Because obviously you got Lex above it, a Court of Owls.
But I do like that page because it kind of does tease like there is an infinite number of ways that Batman could have been, that could have gone wrong, right?
I kind of love Bruce just going, no, stupid Batman.
Right. That's what I mean. But Bruce is the one that rose above, and he is, so that drives that point home again. And then there's this whole page of like, hey, look at all these other ones, right?
I do like the ending. I like because it's sort of this thing where it goes back to sort of the POV of him waking up on the operating table as he's becoming the Manhattan, and the final thing is like I love that it ends a with the sort of the voice saying bang, like he is the gun, right? I like that as a thematic endpoint. I also like that the sort of symbol we see here, it's like a mix between a bat logo and a Joker smile, where it's kind of like making the shape of both in a weird way.
I mean, I think that's supposed to be his mouth, right?
Yeah. I like that, but it does kind of have both vibes to it. I think it's just overstuffed, and that first half, which is mostly recapping what we already know from Death Metal and Metal and all these other things, could have been heavily trimmed down, and this could have been a bit more concise. But
again, I feel like Tony Daniel wanted to draw some stuff too.
Yeah.
So instead of cramming it all into one page, he was doing spreads, because there's really not that much story here. They are these big pages full of art. So who knows what he did with it? But it was, I mean, yeah, it is. It's they say that certain actors choose scenery, right? Like Pacino and Heat. That's what this feels like to me at this point. They're just going for it.
I definitely felt scene chewing going on. Yeah, I can get behind that.
But I can be behind that in a over the top villain. Yeah. Especially in a comic.
I was definitely I was more positive on it when I got to the end than I was at the start. See the first chunk of it, I was like, oh my god, this is such a waste of time. Why am I reading this? By the time I got to the end of this first story, I was like, you know what? That kind of won me over by the end.
Boy, that's gonna be the roller coaster of this issue. The fact that it's so sought after, also, my comic shop owner told me as he was ringing my books up that there was a line to get this issue
for the Robin King, I believe.
Yeah. Which actually takes us on to the next story, which is the Tomasi story with Riley Rosmo on the art. However,
I got a full 4 panels in before I just noped out.
I'm actually going to.
No way.
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little bit extreme here. I actually think the Rosmo art here, well, it's still clearly Rosmo. I think it's not as extreme as some of his other stuff, and actually kind of fits the story that it's being told.
Because it's dark. And there's a cartoonish violence to things.
It's about a demented child. This is a Bruce Wayne who basically likes killing things, and you can sort of see where it's going, where ultimately he's going to be the one who kills his parents, where the mugger, like, he basically slashes the mugger's throat and then uses the gun to kill his parents. But honestly, Rosmo's art on the kid's face, like on Bruce's face when he's looking all evil, I was getting this mischievous, like, Damien from The Omen mixed with, like, Stray from Family Guy with a bit of something else.
Yeah.
So, much to my surprise, I actually think the Rosmo art here fitted what the story was, which I actually thought, again, in a kind of over-the-top, cartoony kind of way, worked for me. So
Yeah.
I'm fairly positive. I don't know, Matt. How did you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm the same way. It didn't make me go like that Flash story that we read in the Flash issue. What was that? 700, right? Was it Flash 700?
Yeah, 700.
So,
750. 750.
Yeah, 750. Yeah, that was rough, man. But this fits it. This was up there with like the Shadow stuff that he did with Batman, and I don't know. I feel like he draws a good Alfred, even like, it's not as extreme. Like, you can recognize him as Alfred or even Gordon here.
Yeah, his Gordon
in
looks
the final pages.
His Gordon looks fine
Like,
here in the context of this story. Little Bruce like shoots an arrow through Gordon's neck because Alfred's trying to turn them in, and then Bruce has a costume. Alfred's going to try and kill him because he's like, it needs to happen now. But then, Bruce kills Alfred, and he's sitting there, and this is, it says King of Pain. This is the Robin King origin. So the Robin King is actually a Bruce Wayne as well, is what we've discovered in this story.
Which doesn't seem to make sense, judging from what we saw in Death Metal 2.
Does it not?
Because didn't he? Because, I mean, unless we're assuming that because I thought it's that the Batman Who Laughs was going to elevate a Robin. Right? When he asked him, do you want to be my Robin King?
Yeah, well, he's already wearing a Robin, like an R on his chest here, so for whatever reason, he's went straight to Robin.
Right. So I don't know. But yeah, no, it was a real demented story.
Yeah. I kind of enjoyed it. I liked Alfred's go straight to hell, Master Bruce, when he's about to kill him. I was like, there's something about like a psychopathic kid version of Bruce Wayne, and Alfred's the hero trying to put him down because he's too dangerous. So I'm surprised to say it, but I actually quite like this one.
Mm-hmm.
So fair play. There's a 2-page story about the B-Rex, the Bat-Rex. It's not really a story outside of just he's going through Arkham and Scarecrow's pissing himself. That's basically it.
It's just someone having fun with a Batman T-Rex for 2 pages. And sure,
and it's great to see Jamal Igle join DC again. I can't tell you the last time.
I don't
seen Igle, and so that was I saw his name on the cover where they had like the creators listed, and I didn't even guess this was the issue until I got to see it. So that was good. Yeah, I mean,
it's not a story. I mean, if anything, I'd say it could have just been a pin-up, really.
All you needed is that second page with all hail the B-Rex.
That's all. And maybe just the panel at the bottom of Scarecrow pissing himself. I didn't need context. Scarecrow pissing himself tells you enough. That's it.
Yeah, it does.
That's all you need.
I mean, it's hard to complain. It was 2 pages. It's not like this was.
Yeah, but
out.
like, I don't know. Judging from some of the other stories we're going to get to, I'd much rather have had more of that than some of the other stuff we got. So,
well, we're on the Francavilla art next.
Looks gorgeous because of course it's Francavilla playing with his trademark blues and oranges.
Yeah, obviously it was giving me some Batman Beyond vibes to begin with because it mentioned Commissioner Barbara Gordon, and I was like, wait, what's going on here?
And old Bruce sitting in the mansion, and in the computers. I also like that Francavilla added the bust on that page, the Shakespeare bust from the Batman 66.
Sure.
In the front, which is real cool.
Yeah,
but this is the Damian Batman that we saw in Batman 666.
Yeah, I'll be honest. See, when they open the Book of the Dead or whatever it is, that's what it made me think of. And that page from the Book of the Dead was all the black and white with the orange kind of around it. It made me go, oh man, I want more. Can we get some Francavilla and like a horror book with this?
And do you know what I love about this page that you're talking about here is the lettering. Because these pages, you see them all the time. It can be hard to decipher which way around you read. Do you go, left, right? Do you go round a circle? It can be hard to tell on sometimes. But this here, the lettering boxes, it leads you down across and then back into where you're supposed to go. It really, it guides your eyes to the right order.
Yeah, no, really, really good. But basically, the story here is that Bruce is saying about how the ancestors, blah blah. It's all about sacrificing something you love, and ultimately the city's falling apart. So Bruce is going to kill Damian as a sacrifice to save the city, and in fact becomes the city. This is a story where Batman literally becomes Gotham, a sentient city.
This is the most Batman thing ever, and I love it.
I did not love it.
Oh, Matt hates it.
Like, yeah.
I don't know.
It had me.
As a gimmicky little. All right, we're gonna have a Bat Gotham, literally. Why
Unless
not?
he fights Danny the Street, that's the only way that I want.
How would you not want to see that confrontation?
Yeah, I'm
so-
kind of with Connor as a little short story, just as a sort of, one bat story. It's fine, and the art's so good, and I kind of love just how absurd it is. But that's it kind of played into the stuff I was laughing at in the first story, where it's just we're just going ape shit, we're just going bananas. It doesn't matter.
I was super into the Bat Demon cult that was killing
Sure.
people, and then Bruce turns and is like, "Oh yeah, this is the ancient magic," and I was like, "Oh, this is the history. This is who the Bat Necromancer is, right?" And I was like, "No, it's Batman's."
I just
So,
love
yeah.
that they kind of contacted creators, Frank Thierry in this case, and went, "You got any stupid ideas for evil Batman?" And he went, I got something, but I don't
Honestly,
know if
Batman
it's
is
out
Gotham.
there." And they went, "Go for it."
It
Give
really
me-
takes the "I Am Gotham"
Oh yeah,
story title.
Whole new
Really?
level.
yeah. Give me Frankie Villa. Revive like Gotham by Midnight or whatever it was called. The
Mhm.
supernatural horror stories in Gotham, and have Frankie Villa draw it, please.
I mean, I would have
yeah.
Francavilla on literally anything and be happy because
Francavilla,
so good.
occult detective. Do it, DC.
Yeah, and then there's a 2-page story called Road Warrior by Daniel Warren Johnson, that was the person who was just doing that Wonder Woman Dead Earth, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dead Earth.
So story and art. And I'm like, oh, Batman Road Warrior, this sounds great, but it's only 2 pages, so there's not really enough to actually make it a story. Kind of like the T-Rex one, except there's like not even the big moment that I enjoy in this one.
I kind of hope some of these are proof of concept. With
Mhm.
that 2 pages got a good reaction. Here, we'll
Oh,
give you a
sure.
1-shot later down the line.
But yeah, I would totally read a Batman Road Warrior story where he's got a bat monster truck in the desert, in the wasteland.
And the big mech that he's got in his cave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mech was real cool.
I-
But yeah, we've met this Batman. This is the one that they stole to roll, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Uh,
yeah.
So
Yeah, I would happily get more of a story out of this Batman, but there's just not really a whole lot in this 2 pages to care about, honestly.
Yeah, it's not much of a story. It's more of just a tone piece for 2
Yeah.
pages. But I mean, I'm into the tone piece.
And then we got Garth Ennis and Joelle Jones on I Shall Become, and this this is just a wacky.
If you thought Bat Gotham was over the line.
Yeah, Batman, basically the start of the story is that he's in sort of some scientific chamber where he's trying to enhance himself, and he ends up accidentally turning himself into a baby. So we get Batman's narration as little baby Bruce is trying to stand up, but his head's too heavy, and he's like, I can't do this, I'm all weak, and that's it. And all the joke at the end is that his only weapon is to cry. That's his only thing. Because he's like, I can't stand up, I can't do this, all the blah blah. Such a conundrum might leave a lesser mortal flummoxed, but not the Batman, not the Dark Knight, not the Guardian of Gotham, not the terror of the underworld, the nighttime nemesis of Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, Scarecrow, all the rest. Not when I have my ultimate weapon. Then he cries. That's it. It's actually 2 pages. But I'll say what. For 2 pages, this tells way more of a story than any other 2-page stories.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
and that's Ennis, right?
Yeah.
Like,
True.
Yeah.
but I felt terrible watching the baby band down the stairs and laughing about it, though.
I think
uh,
it's intentionally really funny, especially when it lands on its head on the second one. And
mhm.
it's just like, yeah, that is funny.
So I don't know. I felt some of these were, for speculators to be scooping them up the way that they were, and you know what I mean. I'm just like, $6 1 shot. It's whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. But
I agree. I was hoping for more out of it.
Yeah.
It's mostly not bad.
I actually
No.
mostly
I
like what I
think
read.
I came out really net positive on this. I mean, I like the Rosmo story, and if that's not an indication of like how I felt about the whole thing,
Yeah, I wish either when you go as a when you have a 1 shot like this, go for it and give them each X amount of.
Are you saying you'd have preferred this to be one of the 80 or 100 page ones and kind of
Well, not that
had
much.
significant
Like,
chunks of these stories?
I don't know. I almost feel like the Darkest Night could have been its own thing, and then you could have put some other, like, if the gimmick was
Sure.
five or shorter pages in this one, and it's an anthology, Legends of the Dark Knight, because for as much as that was a recap, that also filled in the first story.
Do you know what's so weird about
And
it?
it was the longest and
Yeah,
a good
so
chunk of
like
the page
Yeah.
count. Yeah.
I think what's weird
Yeah.
about it is that first one feels obviously very relevant to everything going on, and then the rest of them are just random like
Don't-
ideas, basically.
right, and that's what I mean. Just go for that all. Take the pages that you did to that one. Let Tony Daniel wanted to draw. Let him do his own one shot with those three.
I think, especially
plotting it.
as I think that one ends up around 15 pages. Just
Mhm.
go an extra few, do a 20-page one shot, just
Right.
a regular sized one shot issue
Mm-hmm.
as a separate thing for that issue, and then that story, and then have either extend some of the stories that are here or throw in another one or two instead.
Yeah, that said though, I kind of liked how crazy some of these were, and I was laughing a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if comedy was necessarily what they wanted, but I was kind of.
I mean
I think fun
Frank
was the
Villa
intention.
story.
So
Yeah. Which I guess that's what surprises me is that death metal, even though obviously there's a tongue in cheek to even just calling it death metal and like all the music references and stuff, but typically I think of Snyder's stories taking themselves very seriously. So I think I was almost surprised with just how kind of like over the top and silly this was.
Yeah. Although I do feel that since Metal, he has loosened up a bit. Because, I mean, it opened up Metal with the Justice League transforming a Power Ranger Megazord out of the cars and whatnot. So it seems like he's loosened up a bit. And it just, I don't know. In all the interviews I've ever heard, Snyder seems like such a lighthearted dude that, I don't know. I don't know why his stuff always comes off as so self-serious.
I think
almost feels
he's
like-
great in an interview.
Yeah.
He can
and-
talk about stuff so easily.
Right, and so when it starts taking itself so seriously, I almost feel like this is exactly who he wants to be, like the death metal stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that has to do with Capullo kind of breaking him down as well, because if you've heard about how their relationship started, and Capullo saying he wanted to beat him up because Snyder came in as this pretentious writer that was like, oh, the words are more important.
Well,
than the story.
I mean, Snyder's
You know what
Snyder's influence in this particular issue is not that heavy. He's like one of three writers on the first story. So the point here is not a surprise at being Snyder, just a surprise at just all these things tied to it are just these fun little, really silly ideas.
I think it's less Snyder's writing in this point, but more this is his property still. As much as it's a DC story and they have ultimate control, it feels like Snyder is spearheading everything involved with this. Like, he posted that board on Twitter or Instagram, wherever it was, with all the stories. It feels like he's personally greenlighting all these stories as much as he can. And he's, it's almost like a mini imprint that he's in charge of with the way it feels like it's being treated. So I get where you come from. It's like, he is intentionally choosing things that are just fun as opposed to grim, dark storytelling.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess we'll rate the book then. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'll give this a 7.
Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5, but I mean, still pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 7. I think if I hadn't felt like I'd wasted, or there was like some wasted recap stuff in that first story, and the couple of those 2-page ones feeling a bit kind of whatever, but no, overall, actually kind of surprised. And I mean, I don't think it's a necessary one shot to read, but it was a fun one to read. I'm not, sometimes I read these one shots and regret that I spent the time and money on them, but this one I did not. So I guess that's what you can ask for. Strange Adventures issue 4, Tom King writing with Mitch Gerads and Doc Shaner on the art. So this was super exciting. This was obviously a Mr. Terrific focused issue. Obviously there was still the Strange stuff as well, but this was a lot more stuff from Terrific's POV.
I wasn't expecting this to go the noir route, and this is now like a sci-fi noir, which outside of Blade Runner, I don't know of too many, right? Like,
you all the Blade Runner knockoffs.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Can you name any of those?
Alt Carbon.
Okay.
Okay, he's got one Netflix show from the last couple of years. So, the Adam stuff in this one, the Adam Strange stuff in this issue is the time where basically he's encouraged some of the people to fight with him from the not the Peck, they're the enemies, they're the ones.
The Helitat.
Thank you.
Or as the racist ass Rainians call them, the Rurals. And the more I kept reading that, the more you start picking up on, that's a backloaded term.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that Adam, because he's so, he's an outsider to all of this. To him, they're equals, right?
Yeah,
And
so
clearly to
he's
the Iranians, they're not. So he
so
wants to get back to them because the Zeta beam pulled him out mid battle.
yeah, that's what I was
You
trying to
know.
explain. Is that's the premise of his story here is that he's stuck on Earth for about well, it's maybe longer than a week, but when he's asked how long till the next beam, he said it's about a week, and he's asking how for transport with his lantern ring. He's asking Superman to help him, and ultimately
How
gets
good is Doc Shane as Hal?
very good. It felt like Silver Age Green Lantern, honestly. When you were
How
reading
how
that
good
stuff.
is Doc Shaner? You can just end there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. You could
Right?
pretty much just end there.
So, but I mean, Connor, him and King, that issue is one of my favorite things. The Green Lantern.
Oh, I know. It's so good.
So, we shouldn't be surprised, but he still manages
It's just
to surprise us.
that issue is phenomenal, and it is.
Mhm.
But we don't see Shayna draw Hal or Green Lantern in general often enough that whenever it does happen, I'm like, oh god damn.
Do you know what's interesting here is that when we get the panels of him beaming out of the fight, right? I actually thought it was turning into Mitch Gerads' art for a second, and I was wondering, like, on a conceptual level, why is it switching to him? It's actually just the Zeta beam, but because it does this sort of distorted thing, it made me think of Mitch Gerads.
Well, and that's probably on purpose too.
Yeah,
From they know that we're probably familiar with that from Mr. Miracle.
Yeah,
so.
but it was also just the fact that I thought it was interesting when we actually do see him on Earth that, we're actually on Earth in Doc Shaner art now, because up until now, all the Doc Shaner stuff's been on Ran. So it was a nice kind of flip of and obviously we have terrific on Ran with Gerads' art because that's present day. So we actually flipped the art and locations this issue, which is a really nice little thing. And obviously the art there is gorgeous. But Gerads does the ship coming into land with terrific. I think it looks beautiful.
Yep.
Proper futuristic stuff.
Yeah, so we know he's done like futuristic stuff with the New Gods, but not like this. Like this is way more hard sci-fi than that fantasy sci-fi of the New Gods. And man, Gerads, he's another one that we can just say how great he is all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like he keeps surprising us with like this.
I know there's a lot of artists that hate drawing this sort of stuff because they have to make because they like drawing things obviously, but they hate having to design spaceships and stuff like that, and and make them feel realistic and natural,
futuristic
part of the world, and futuristic, and do you do too angular, do you do too rounded, and then making that fit with everything else. Some artists absolutely hate that. I don't know if Gerads does, but he does a great job.
I feel like, because I feel like Jim Lee's the opposite, where he loves doing all that design stuff, but when it comes to actual storytelling, he's like over it at this point in his career. He's like, no, I just want to draw things.
I know, like there are some top quality artists that absolutely if they've got the choice won't design anything. They will do the smart thing and hire actual designers to design, and then they'll just draw their designs. And there are some high profile ones that are insistent that it's crazy that that's not the standard, that comic artists are expected to be designers as well. Because it's a completely separate skill set.
It almost makes me wonder if like DC should just have a couple of designers that they've got on staff for everyone. The idea being that they can make a cohesive, world where everything's designed by the same couple of people,
Right.
In the same way, in the same way that like like at the start of New 52, Jim Lee sort of designed all the outfits, right, which everyone then had to copy.
For better or worse,
almost
what
like
you
a
think
style
about those
guide.
outfits. Yeah, it was the
It was
right
consistent.
thing to do.
I hated most of them, but it was consistent.
Yeah, collars, man. Jim Lee, why do you love collars so much?
Yeah. The designs themselves were flawed, shall we say? But the idea of having this is the design set by one artist,
a template, something to follow.
I also like, because Gerads' art is naturally more gritty, it gives Ran a different feel. Like I was getting Blade Runner vibes.
As
he's flying into the city.
Song.
It feels dystopian.
Yeah, right.
We'll get to the song later. That's later in this issue.
Right.
I want to talk about the transition though, because you've got the transition from the stuff on Ran, and it's just he's listening to the audio message from Alana's father, and you've got basically he's been told that he's allowed to go to the library, look at whatever he wants. The pick stuff is there, but we can't translate it, so there's no point in looking at it.
Did any of you go, I know what Mr. Terrific's gonna do?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
But the transition, so you've got that panel where you can't even see them anymore. You just have the sound effect of the vroom as the flying cars went away. And it's this, yeah, it looks like a dystopian. There's rubble. It looks really messy. You turn the page, and it's this clean Silver Age Hal Jordan Green Lantern like landing on the airfield. This might be the most, and I mean this in a good way. It might be the most jarring transition that this book has had so far.
I agree, and it's supposed to be jarring. It's supposed to, because again, going back to this isn't Shayna telling the past and Gerads telling the future or present. This is Shayna telling the story, and I think that's the key point here. That this is the idealized version. In the
context of this issue, that ties in nicely with the whole thing with the picked records, where you know, Terrific actually points out, no, what you've given me to read is your propaganda, the stuff that you've curated and created. I want to read the real stuff, the unadulterated stuff that the other side was writing.
See, and I still don't trust Atlanta, especially at the end of this issue. I do feel like Adam is stuck in the middle. Like he's the man of two Earths. He's the hero, or the man of two worlds. He is the hero of two worlds. I don't think he has much control over anything.
Probably think not. He's
right.
Probably not innocent bystander, but doesn't understand what's happened.
Right, because he's trying to get back not just to his family, like that's what he tells Hal and Superman, that he needs to get back to his family, but he needs to get back to his army, right? They need him. There's a war going on, and and I look where Hal tells him, like, I talked to the Guardians. The Guardians are like, if a Green Lantern escorts you in there, then that's going to be seen to the rest of the galaxy as them taking sides. And normally I don't agree with them. They're always wrong. But this time I see it. So for Hal, who's the biggest, in this version of the story with Adam, right? Who's the biggest Russian,
he's the
don't
hothead.
think about things. Right. For him to tell Adam, like, hey, this is going on, like, it makes me question, like, what was their actual, right, conversation about? Because if this is Adam's version of things.
Yeah, and especially, the Superman conversation as well. I'm getting those same vibes of this is definitely filtered through Adam's perspective.
Yeah, because for as well as Superman comes off in that, right, there's things that just don't add up with Superman, where he is saying, like, things that do add up, or, well, Mongol's coming, I can't abandon Earth because, I have to help everyone, which means making decisions about how to help the most people. I'm not always right, but I have to decide. And right now I'm staying. We're not children. It's a war. That doesn't stick. We're not children. It's a war. Does not strike me as particularly Superman, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely filtered through someone else's impression
through
of him.
Adam. And I'm not saying like Adam's mind controlled, but I definitely feel there's something going on with Iranian propaganda.
Maybe I think this is as simple as just what we're hearing here is the transcript of Adam's book, essentially. The story. And I'm not saying he's put words in Superman's mouth intentionally, but maybe he has misinterpreted or misremembered the exact quoting. And he's kind of played some of it up for dramatic effect. Maybe.
Yeah, I would go along with that line of thinking. I don't necessarily think it's intentional per se. There could be an avenue there where maybe there is kind of some of the Iran political agenda being kind of like seeded in, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I feel like it's more, he's basically taking a certain meaning from what Superman said because he's angry, because he wants help and Superman's not giving it to him. He's basically taking what he said and he's remembering what he felt he said at the time, but he was actually kind of extrapolating and
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to convey, that he's been with Rand for so long now that their politics is seeping in to him, right? That as he's having this conversation with Superman, he's not taking what Superman is saying. Like he's hearing it, but he's not listening, and then it's coming through that filter. And then I love the page where he tries to punch Superman because he's mad.
Also, I love that because they're on the moon here. I'm assuming it's the moon. Looks very moony. Just as he comes up for the punch, you can just see the lower gravity. It's not even that much. It's not even like he's in a huge leap or anything. It's just enough that the body feels, like it's got less weight. It's really, really strong art to pull that off.
Again, Shayner's really good.
Yeah, he is. He also snuck all three of them into the issue in the scene with Hal.
Yeah. Tom King was especially noticeable.
King's the
as a barman.
bartender. You've got Gerads at the back sitting at one of the tables, and then you've got Shayna drinking behind Hal.
I think there should be a rule.
Holy shit! It is him.
I think there should be a rule that if Tom King's going to have a cameo in a comic book, he should have to draw himself, regardless of the rest of the art.
I think they should just draw him as Tom Taylor.
That's pretty funny. Oh, see if they see if they do an issue later in this run where it's not the Shiner bit, it's the Gerads bit, but he draws in Tom King, and it's like no. You thought you saw Tom King because that was the fabricated version of the past.
That is the best thing to do here. In the when they inevitably show some of these scenes, not necessarily this one, but some of these scenes again, the real version with Gerads art, replace King with Taylor. This is the real one.
So seeing and I know this is going to digress from that, but I'm looking at that art because I had to go back and look for the page of Shaner, and then it clicked right. But above that you have Hal and Carol and Tom, and I'm like, where's Tom Kalamaku been in all of this?
Oh,
just really made me think.
I can't remember the last time.
Decades.
Right?
Yeah, it's been a long last time.
I know Taika played him in the movie, right? Which we don't talk about because that movie's terrible.
Wait, did he? Oh my god.
Did he? I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
I believe so because Ryan Reynolds has been messing with him.
That's funny. It's been so long since I've not seen it since theaters.
If I watched that movie now, I would immediately recognize him. I'm sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I didn't know who he was at the time. So back to
Kalamaku.
Back on Ran. What do you think the tune is to this hologram song that's playing?
I was trying to figure it out. I can't get it. I'm hearing it as a K-pop song for some reason.
My Ran.
What's a K-pop song sound like to those that wouldn't?
Matt.
I don't even know where to start. I will leave one on my Twitter tomorrow. In the next day.
I don't know.
And people can go and see what I mean.
I don't know K-pop. I can do you some. I don't know if it counts as J-pop, but baby metal.
That's J-metal.
Yeah.
J-metal. Okay, I could do you some.
Yeah. Well, because I know like certain New Japan characters come out to what sounds like pop type of stuff.
K-pop,
like I'm thinking Naito.
That far.
No. So that's what I'm wondering because like Naito has this really. I think even Connor would enjoy Naito's theme. If you look up Tetsuo Naito's music, Connor, at some point. I think it's called Stardust. I think you'd enjoy it. But anyways, I had no idea what this song tune was, but it does unsettle me. There's something about the girl dressed as Adam.
I think Matt was feeling things and he's confused because it's a sexy Adam Strange.
I can admit that I find Adam Strange sexy. Like, come on. But the gender bend version,
it was surreal to kind of just see this, this female Adam Strange singing a pop song and that being the thing on Ran.
Yeah.
Like what is that culture, right? Like,
I mean, we're getting an idea. There's a lot of propaganda, so that seems to be propaganda because it seems to be in the interest of Ran to promote Adam Strange as this war hero.
Yes, but we don't make war heroes pop stars.
Well, this is Ran. They do things differently.
No. But you do turn pop stars into soldiers, right? Elvis.
Oh, no, sure. You go the other way.
Right. Geometry. Right.
Of course. So... But this is a little bit different.
I want to talk about the guy that he's there to see. The shit-eating grin on his face at the bottom of that page is such good, just art. Like I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, no, it's impossible.
So did you take this as him saying like it is actually impossible, or he's like,
no,
it's not impossible, but it's impossible to you?
Little column A, little column B.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I took it directly as he's not allowed to see those. They think there's no point, but of course he proves in the very next page that he can speak Pict. He's basically learned it. Yes.
Right, because as soon as I heard like, oh, no one can translate Pict, I was like, yeah, Mr. Terrific can. He's the third smartest man on Earth, which I don't know where it came from, but someone suggested that because he's Mr. Terrific and believes in fair play, he is actually the smartest man, but either it keeps people off their game thinking he's third, or he's so humble that third's just fine.
Yeah, well, that's obviously leads to an armed force showing up in his like hotel room or wherever on Ran, and they demand that he stand down. And of course he's like, nah, T-spheres, take care of them.
I like the last one where it just kind of swings back around and bonks him on the head.
Yeah, that's some nice pacing in the humor there.
That's one of my only art problems is they use a crack sound effect for that, and I feel like a bonk would have been more effective.
A bonk, or even a dink.
Yeah, a dink. Yeah.
So then we go back to Adam, who comes back to Rani. He actually wakes up in the battlefield, and there's just tons of dead bodies. Really stark image, I thought. But some of the art from Gerads, so this is where he goes to confront Alana's father, and some of the facial expressions here, especially the page where it's just the 3 wide panels going down. Strange, it's not strange. A Terrific's face as he's looking at him before he slaps him. It slaps him back, I should specifically say. It looks so good. Like the expression, there's so much emotion. You can see what's going through his head in the art, and then of course he slaps him back, and he's like,
he's just the backhand as well.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. What the hell did you think, fair play, man?
That might be my
fair play, man.
I was censoring it.
And that's the point. The book censors it as well, but which was a stylistic choice they made. Obviously, they're allowed to in this Black Label book.
So, like, I know he's probably too old to play Mr. Terrific. But I read this as Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah. And basically, so obviously he's confronting him about not being able to read the Pict diaries and accuses him of the propaganda and all the rest of it. So, of course, he's basically told that he's not coming back. He's not getting help from Rand now. They're all very unhappy about this. Whereas, of course, Alana finds Adam back in the recreation, as it were, and gives him his jetpack, and he's like, hey, it's time to go fight for revenge and blah blah. So we have intercutting of them flying together in the past with modern Alana greeting Mr. Terrific arriving back home.
It's really telling how she's doing the thing for the sultry smoking, kind of being mysterious.
Every time you see her, she's blowing smoke, literally.
Yeah.
So that's not lost on.
So basically, she's about to spring the trap that she was setting up at the end of last issue. Although the trap last issue was more obviously tied to Batman. But clearly there's something up her sleeve here for Terrific.
But Batman's not Michael Holt, right? Like, so I just feel like he's also got a trap card, that he's gonna play.
Sure.
Because what made Sardath smack Mr. Terrific was he brought up what happened to Aaliyah Strange.
Yeah.
Or Alina. Which one is it? Shit. Their names are too close.
It was Aaliyah, I think.
It's Aaliyah. Yeah.
The daughter.
You're right the first time.
What happened to your granddaughter, right? And then so they know that he knows, right? Like something's up.
Back to the art on that page with the 3 panels. Yeah. The sound effects, the slap, the first one, the black bold lettering, medium size, it's in the middle of the panel, and then the bottom one is this huge, massive slap.
He smacked the damn glasses off of him.
Yeah, but it's I mean, the art obviously it tells it without that, but even just down to the size and the lettering of these effects is sublime.
Yeah, I also want to point out the ending of this. So you've got Alana in present day saying, Michael, it's about time for you to be done. Kind of, obviously, she's got something up her sleeve. She's about to spring something on him. We'll get to that next issue. But that's not the last panel. The last panel, it cuts back to the idyllic, story version of her flying with Adam, and it's her just saying yes, always and everything for Ran. And I love how that last page is the idealistic version of her, devoting herself to her cause as she's doing something shady in present day, presumably to cover up something she did for Ran.
Presumably something for Ran. Yeah.
So it's a really nice way of ending it. By contrasting the idealism right next to the kind of the shady actual, real life, like practical implications of it.
There's a lot of books where you have 2 artists on it and you go, oh, 2 artists. And then you get this book and the 2 contrasting arts are used to such sublime effect. It's spectacular storytelling.
Because usually when you have 2 artists, though, it's not... There's not that intent. There's usually because someone's finishing because of deadlines.
Usually like a best case scenario is, well, there's a reason for a different artist, but it wasn't the original intention.
I mean, this is a rare example of clearly the choice to have the 2 artists was made first for artistic reasons, It's just actually the icing on the cake that it means that it's probably quite easy for them to keep the schedule because they're only doing half a book each.
Right. So, but here they are seamlessly working together to tell a cohesive story. Yeah. Like you notice when it's Shaner's art versus Gerads, but unless it's meant to be jarring, it doesn't feel jarring because they
just look at that
the way that it's laid out.
Look at that last pair of panels. You've got just because they're side by side, so it's really easy to compare them. You know, Gerads has got all this shading, all this moodiness. Shaner's got flat colors. It's this bright, bold, vivid, Silver Age looking style. The basically the idea of a superhero versus the shady actual.
It's clear. It's the story versus reality.
Yeah, the price to pay for what it actually is. So it's really well done in pretty much every regard. So. No, I mean, there's a reason why this gets a sort of main event slot. It's rare that the new issue of Batman's like 4th on the list this week, and that's kind of rare. But it just so happens that there's things that rank above it,
supersede it.
So, fantastic issue, Matt. What are you giving Strange Adventures issue 4?
I think it was a 9.5. It just keeps rolling on out. I love this book.
My God, Matt's in a happy mood.
I thought I was going on the high end when I was going to give it a 9. But damn, now I look like I'm just just a 9.
No, again, my ratings are meaningless for the most part because 7's towards the bottom.
It's a very small scale.
Yeah. So
I'm also going to go with the 9 out of 10. It's excellent. It's excellent. And I think the run's getting better as it goes because as we compound and really get to the meat, this is the same thing that happened with Mr. Miracle. It was very good for the first few issues, but once you started to really get what it was doing, because all the stuff started to come together and click, it was like a whole different world. By the time we got halfway through that book, it was kind of like, oh, now it's an event every month to read an issue of this, and I feel like we're getting to that point with this one now.
And much like Mr. Miracle, I feel like I always enjoy it more after we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy reading it. It's a great read, obviously.
That said, I feel
about it and we dig into it. I'm like, I like it even more now.
Yeah, but see, I feel like Mr. Miracle lent itself to unpacking, whereas this one does too. But this one's a little bit more straightforward. Like you can kind of see what they're going for more clear.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, right. Versus Mr. Miracle, where I remember that first issue, I came out of it not knowing if I liked it until we talked about it because we unpacked everything. So yeah.
It's a bit more digestible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. So, DCeased, Dead Planet, issue 2, Tom Taylor writing, Trevor Hairsine on the art. Tom Taylor got bumped to 3rd. Now, admittedly, just by its nature, events and tie-ins to events always have to go at the top. Otherwise, it would be 2nd, right? Strange in that this would be higher up. But
before we jump in, I forgot when we were talking about the list of fandom creators attending. Hairsine is. I didn't spot Taylor's name. Doesn't mean he's not, but Hairsine's there, which means it may be more DCeased being announced.
Possibly. It wouldn't surprise me. So this issue kind of interestingly, for the most part, actually follows on from the characters that were in the other mini. The Unkillables. Yeah. Like obviously the characters from issue 1 in the mainline book they do appear and kind of intercept with them when they come for Sanctuary and the Guardian, as it were. But we see Roy and we see the magic users show up, and for the last 5 years they've been doing a decent job of keeping the
new Shadow Pack.
The people safe from the zombies of the world. Including Ragman, who I'm sorry, Arrow ruined Ragman for me because as soon as I saw it was Ragman, I started giggling to myself.
Me too.
But so explain why it's so bad from Arrow.
He wasn't even that bad. It was just the way he appeared for like half a season, and then they wrote him out with like no warning, no explanation. He just vanished.
Yeah, it was just really weird how they treated them. It wasn't so much that the actor or the version of him was bad. It was just he became such a sort of running laughing joke for us whenever we referenced him.
Ragman's one that I always want to get into because like some other heroes, there's a small contingent of people. Like I'm sure I fit into that with Booster Gold. Ragman has fans, and they're very diehard for Ragman, which is cool. But I can never there's never that one story that they can point me to that's fantastic that I should read. But so seeing him show up, I was like, oh, that's cool. How's that power going to work though when these things don't have souls? And then Tom King through narration delivers on that.
Tom Taylor,
no,
I
he
think you'll
doesn't.
find.
Tom Taylor. Damn it, I did it. We were just talking about cake.
There you
Yeah,
go.
in Matt's defense, I think I implanted that accidentally when,
Yeah.
when
You
we were
did.
talking about
So-
Strange Adventures.
Yeah, so the Swamp Thing's got a concern. He shows up. There's a bit of fighting, of course, which has some fun. But Swamp Thing shows up, says, "Okay, there's an area in Australia." I wonder if Tom Taylor specifically picked Australia just because it's the homeland.
He definitely did.
But he's there's a garden in Australia that needs our help. And I love the panel of Swamp Thing because Constantine's like, "Hey, there's a bunch of people, zombies here, to deal with," and he's just like, "Oh, I'll deal with them," and he just spikes them all with vines, like just really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's like, "Why don't you just open with that?" And
Yeah.
then well,
Could've done that
Australia
instead.
is like, "Nah, piss off, mate. Australia was a shithole before the undead."
Dangerous thing you'll find. That's kind
Dangerous
see,
thing.
No,
yeah.
this is me interpreting Constantine talk.
Yeah, last night we were recording the TV, just Connor insulted like 4 countries in the space of 5 minutes. He has some serious xenophobia going on.
Well, no, that's this is I didn't get around to insulting the Australians in that, so I had to make up for it.
So
Real quick, can we just talk about how cool it was to see Detective Chimp ripping arms off?
sure,
Very cool.
Like,
Yes.
it's
sure.
like, come on, man.
The flame off as well made me
Yeah.
laugh.
Yes.
So we have the garden in Gotham, and the characters showing up. So Rose goes back without the others because the others all go to Australia. Harley's there with their glasses on, looking all kind of weirdly mixed between scientist and Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower of Fate is actually in the middle of the garden, helping protect it
Which is cool.
from the outside world. So it's another example of Taylor using everything in the DC universe to be a part of the story.
Yeah.
We see Fate, we see Mary Marvel there, and all the rest of it. And she had such a big moment, of course, and that many. Probably one of my favorite things in the whole of DCeased so far, to be honest.
It's probably the standout moment of the whole thing.
But yeah, you've got Damien and Jason reuniting and embracing, and Cass, saying the Batsy looks good on him, all these things. And they have this debate because Dinah has Oliver in a green bubble, sort of isolating him because he's infected. And they drop this bombshell on when Ivy and all that say, "No, we keep people outside because we don't let any infected in here." And then they drop the bombshell, which of course they just learned at the end of last issue, is that there is a cure. They haven't found it yet, but they're convinced they can get one now, which really changes everything.
And it's such a downer for everyone there. Going, we spent years killing all our friends.
Yep.
I thought we dealt with all this, and now we did the wrong thing.
Yeah. So and it's inside Cyborg, so they're going to look into it and see. They also reveal here that Damien and Cassandra, as in Cassie, Wonder Girl, not Kane. It's just really important to point that
Especially
out.
now they're both around.
Yeah.
Right.
They're in a relationship, which makes sense because obviously Cassandra Kane was never on the other planet with them. But
Right.
just to make it clear, so we see them kissing, so that sets that up. But the real stuff here. So this issue I thought was solid, right? It was fine. It wasn't as great as the Inkillables issues or anything. It was just solid, doing its thing. And then we get to what this River of Blood turned out to be, and I popped my tits off for this.
It Australia really is dangerous.
So there's this like a central like building, and there's this River of Blood, and then all these zombies around it, and they're debating how to get in. And it's Bobo that realizes that's not blood, this river. And we get this gorgeous 2-page spread. It's actually Plastic Man, who is zombified, but he's just this melting river of plastic. And he comes out of the plastic. You can just see sort of the goggles, kind of, and part of the face.
Yeah, and then what looks like the tongue reaching out towards them, but the tongue is like made up of like just spikes.
Yeah, it's wonderful horror stuff. That again, it's just like using different. Because was Plastic Man in any DCeased before?
No. Not that I
never saw
can
him.
remember.
But this was just like this was so exciting. I feel like he keeps finding new things from the DC universe. Okay, what if this appeared in DCeased? How would it appear, and what's happened to it? And and this was just a wonderful that ain't no river. That's Plastic Man.
Yeah, and then the Shadow Pack goes down.
Oh yeah, like they just start. Zatanna goes pretty quickly. This is the cliffhanger at the end of the book. We get those 3 mysterious characters in this central structure, that Plastic Man was sort of like orbiting. But Constantine might still be alive. It looks like he's getting swallowed by Plastic Man at the end, but
he's not impaled like the others. It seems to be him, Bobo, and Swamp Thing seem to be still alive as they're going
Yes.
in, whereas the others have been a
Done.
bit more impaled.
Yeah. So they may actually, so maybe Plastic Man will keep them alive because he's working at the behest of these three
Yes.
mysterious
Well,
figures.
if he's zombified though, I mean, how do you control that?
Maybe that'll be a plot thing. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely not going to be like who we expect, right? Like,
Because it says next time a greater evil, so
right.
I'm expecting like a villain even worse than the actual zombie apocalypse. It's some, you know.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because we ruled out a bunch of villains in the Unkillables stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
we
you
had
your Grundys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grundy, Vandal Savage.
Savage.
Like,
Yeah.
he was part of that, and like, I'm curious of where Lex is in all of this, but that's too on the nose,
Maybe.
right?
I mean, if one of
well-
them is Lex, it wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Well, I think the one on the left's Cold Snap, but that's just me. So.
Mm.
Sure.
Real quick, what would you call the Mr. Freeze Batman from the Legend of the Dark Knight?
Legends of the Dark Knights?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember he was the freezified
Oh, that's
Batman.
good. That's good. I bet there was a bat that lived like through the Ice Age that we could go back and like. use as a name.
Look, this is a great week for our love of cold villains because
There
we've
is.
got two new ones introduced coming up in Batman.
Yes, that'll be
get there.
Batman. We'll get there. But yes. So I'm thinking Cold Snap, Minister Blizzard, and maybe Icicle Junior as these three shadowy figures. That's my guess. Also, there's a possibility that these aren't traditional villains, but they're just villainous now.
That's what I mean. Like
Ted Cord.
can see.
Ted Cord's one of
No, I would not put it past him. Because Booster did go out, right?
Yeah.
In Unkillables. Or no, Booster went out in the DCeased
one
in
shot.
the first one, in the one
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
Oh, that is good, Pete. I know you said that because of Suicide Squad, but
You never know.
maybe it was writing this that led him to be like, you know who would make a good villain? Ted Cord.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or hell, I mean, we're guessing DC cards. For all we know, this is like, you know, the three surviving members of Queen or something. I don't know.
In Australia?
Why not? Why not? They were on vacation. They were touring in Australia. When everything went down.
Also, King has gone on. Okay, I just did it again. Taylor's gone on record. I hate you for this, Connor. You incepted me. He's gone on Twitter saying Laura's the only true Wolverine, and he won't acknowledge the other one, which is killing me.
Oh, it's pretty
Because there are
funny.
people out there
He's
that don't realize that, you know, Tom Taylor has written, you know, all new Wolverine and whatnot. So they just think he's just some guy with a wrong opinion.
What do you mean with a wrong opinion? With a correct opinion?
No, but you know, Wolverine fans are like Batman fans, right? Like there's a whole load of them. That,
You mean that they're always wrong?
well, there's that. But you know, they're on the surface. Like, yeah, I love Wolverine, and you know, Logan is the Wolverine, and
They're like
I love
big
that
manly
he's-
snicks.
yeah. And so he goes, he posted a picture that someone drew of Jonathan, and he goes, the actual Wolverine, and he capitalized it. Laura and Gabby, the only Wolverines I acknowledge, and it's really funny. So
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, that's right. DCeased Dead Planet issue 2, Matt. What you give it?
because of the shock factor and whatnot, I'm gonna give this. I mean, it was a well written issue, but it had a lot of fun turns. I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Connor?
Yeah, same for me. I think it was trending towards the 8 until that last handful of pages, and then it kind of stepped up a notch and was like, oh, okay. So 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with the straight 8. If anything, I was probably hovering around a 7, which is low for a Tom King. Sorry, a Tom Taylor issue.
See, damn it.
What have I done?
I can't believe this is starting that. Which is low for a Tom Taylor issue from any of us, but me especially here. But then I think the last like 4 or 5 pages just like elevated the whole point. Like I was like,
An 8's acceptable. It's on the low end of what we will accept
Yeah.
for a Taylor book on this show.
exactly, yes. Yes, if I get a 7.5 from Taylor, I'm right. And like,
Yeah.
That's downright disappointing from Tom Taylor.
yes, even though you know most writers would kill for a 7.5 on the regular. So there you go. That's DCeased Dead Planet issue 2. Batman 96, James Tynion the fourth and Jorge Jimenez on the art. The second part of Joker War. So we're continuing with this stuff. It's interesting, I think, going forward with this. The idea that Joker's outfitting gangs and stuff throughout the city with cars and tech because he's got access to the Wayne tech and all the money.
It's a story.
Well, let's start off with this sort of dream sequence of the future, this perfect Gotham that Batman is built with Alfred, where he has the sort of shiny, bright Batman outfit. There's a phone app that lets people know, like, it's actually called, a bat signal. I got a bat signal. This kid's about to get knocked over, and he gets the signal.
Normally I would hate stuff like this, but there is something about the utopic Gotham that I do feel like it is fun to see every once in a while.
That's interesting,
right?
yeah.
Like
I don't mind in a dream sequence here or there.
No, but like they played with that in the sixth dimension?
Yes.
And whatnot, and it was like there was a bit of sinisterness to it because of that story. And Tynion worked on that too, right? Like he was still
helping here or there with that.
He was definitely doing stuff on the book still around there. I don't know if he did that particular.
Honestly, like I thought this was a really fun little dream sequence, and the only disappointment I have with it is that Mr. Freeze's two sons of Ice Pop and Snow Cone will not be around for future stories because it was a dream sequence.
And I love how short they are. Like, they're definitely still actual children.
Yes.
Yeah. So I read this early on Tuesday, and I was gonna tag Pete, but I don't know when he reads his comic, so I didn't want to spoil Snow Cone and Ice Pop.
I can spoil that for you, Matt. He reads them an hour before we start recording.
Yeah, I know.
Not always. Sometimes I'm in the mood on the Tuesday. I'll be like, well, I can read them on release day.
Well, because of the nature of the internet now, even though I get this both ways. I get it digitally and I get it physically, because I don't trust the internet not to spoil things, especially on something as big as Batman or death metal or stuff like that when it comes out. I'll read that on the Tuesday first thing, just,
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so, but I know not everybody's like me, but as soon as I saw Snow Cone and Ice Pop, I was like, Pete has to know about these. Because he looks old. So
I was cackling.
New ice villains.
I mean, Tynion basically in a few pages cemented this as a historic Batman run that will be measured against every other Batman.
I don't know why the speculators were going after the Robin King.
I know, Snow Cone.
I don't either when you have Snow Cone and Ice Pop. Well, you know what though? Tynion is great at taking like look what he did with Clayface and Detective. So if we can get a run like that with Snow Cone and Ice Pop, that's it, man.
I joke because I'm pretty sure the speculators did go after this because of Clown Hunter. But people will forget about Clown Hunter. This is where the value will pay off.
Hey, I'm telling you that this is seeding stuff for Endless Winter. We got 2 more to add to the cold list. We're really setting this up. And I also love the idea of Bruce having this dream of a future like perfect Gotham where he only has to go out as Batman like once a month. And so his mind created these two. This is not something else. This is his mind created Ice Pop and Snow Cone.
While I remember on the Endless Winter thing, we got a comment telling us we missed the obvious team name, the Ice League.
I'm upset. I'm disappointed in us.
I think if we'd been writing it down, we'd have got that. But because we're all doing it orally, you don't see it.
Right. I kind of hate it, but I love it at the same time. Anyways,
Batman.
Yes, Batman. So he's talking to Alfred in the cave, and then a really dark page where Alfred's neck just almost comes clean off. It's a neck snap, but his head is dangling upside down.
Do you know what it looks like?
Nearly headless Nick.
Yes, thank you. That was exactly what I was about to say. It's that moment where he pulls his head off to show them.
Yes. So Batman wakes up from this nightmare, screaming no, and Harley's there. Harley's like sort of dragged his body from the explosion from the end of last issue, and I'm kind of digging. Like she's got like a sort of Mad Max thing going on right now with the goggles and like all the ripped parts of her jacket and stuff.
Belt as well.
Yeah. So it's really selling Gotham as a war zone, and I think something I liked about the last issue a lot was like setting up the stakes of this feels like a big Bat story, a big Gotham story. And this issue, I think, well, it didn't focus on it as much. It did continue the idea, the feeling of the city right now, that everything's kind of in chaos because of what's going on. So she explains what Joker's up to with like funding people. The Clown Hunters
Joker
there.
Reveals, Joker Cycles, Joker Planes.
Yep, all the Jokerized things. Clown Hunter is this vigilante, but he's killing the criminals. So he's kind of like the extreme version of a Bat character.
He's Jason Todd inspired, I feel, in the sense that he's kind of taking that Batman to the next level in his mind.
I would say, imagine the guys in hockey pads from The Dark Knight, except they're competent, or he's competent.
I love that his axe that he uses, I say axe, is a batarang that he's found.
It's a bat terrain.
Yes, it's a baseball bat.
Yeah.
With a batarang through it.
I just want to say, I don't want to let the I don't wear hockey. I'm not wearing hockey pads. That's something that gets yelled in my house at least once a week because of that scene of The Dark Knight. Also, because of Connor, Bane on the Harley show is doing the Tom Hardy Bane.
Yep.
Which has then led to that being done in my house for the last couple days.
Yes.
So,
honestly, I'd be okay if every Bane for the rest of life.
Have you got any of the committee meetings with Bane yet? And the chairs?
I don't think so. I just
you'll know when you
going
get
around little Cobblepot's bar mitzvah, and him talking about he was just here for the party. Oh man. Anyways, Cloud Hunter.
So Batman is a little bit delusional. He starts hearing Alfred, so he runs off from Harley, saying I have to go find him, because there's and that's actually, we brought up Dark Knight there kind of as a joke, but this next bit actually reminded me of Dark Knight. You know, during the Dark Knight when he's got the newscaster on camera. I mean, it's a pretty old school thing to do, admittedly, but it made me think of it. Joker's got this, the owner from the movie theater, basically telling everyone to go to see, Mask of Zorro at the theater.
And he's carved the Z for Zorro into his face.
Into his face.
Yeah, didn't even, the guy should have just took his money and ran, but of course.
Yes. Yeah. Prepare for the final shot at the end of the cue cards was especially
prepare
dark.
For the final shot, and then the bang in the final panel worked really well.
So it's Bruce gets this is personal. Joker's really touching some personal buttons here. He's having more sort of demented visions of his parents, and Harley's trying to. So Harley's actually trying to play psychologist here. She's trying to snap Bruce out of it because the city needs Batman right now. We need this. I kind of dug her being kind of salty about Punchline. Although I will say,
intentionally never getting her name right.
Yeah, I didn't think the first one was kind of, even as an intentional thing, was thoroughly unfunny. It was like knife line or something like that.
Knife line. I liked it in the sense that felt like we could actually use that name and it would work.
Okay, yeah. But regardless, Batman runs off, and he's hearing Alfred. It's like the old days where Alfred's talking in his ear over the comms, but he's not really there, of course.
So, that's from the fear gas venom thing, right? That's probably and probably he is at a really weakened mental state.
Maybe the best image of the book is when he's standing in the corner of a building and it's all the purple lights in the rain as he's looking down.
Oh, gorgeous, yeah.
Gorgeous stuff. So he takes out some thugs. He goes to the theater. There's a lot of dead bodies that have been Jokerized. Joker claims that this is people that he's been, that he's killed over the years, that he's had these men go out and dig up. Yeah. But they all kind of rise, and the idea being that his toxin can actually control people, and that he's maybe actually going to build an army in Gotham.
Who knows how much of this is just in Bruce's head right now with the gas? Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't know how much we can trust.
I don't know. This is the one that got me. As I was going, I got to this, and that was the thing I didn't like in the designer story, was the gas that zombified people and allowed them to control. It's, I don't know. I know it's comics, but that's a bridge too far in a Batman book for me.
Yeah.
So I hope this is his delusions because of everything, and I hope we don't get a zombified Alfred.
Honestly, my first instinct was that it is just in his head. We might see a zombified Alfred as a vision to Bruce.
I just going through this issue and seeing that kind of as a repeated theme, and because Bruce's guilt over Alfred because of the Bane stuff.
I will say though, this is continually making Alfred's death feel more important after the fact, in a way that the actual death itself never felt. So, fair play there. I thought it was solid enough. Yeah, I don't know how much I want a full-on Joker controlling zombies story going forward. I don't know if that's what Joker War is really going to be, or if this is just going to be a little bit of a side thing because Batman's having these hallucinations. But we'll see. I thought the issue that was another solid one after that first part. So I have a look at it, and like I say, the art's very pretty in places.
It's so seeing the cover and who drew the cover. I got a little worried, and then you open it up and it's help me out here.
Jimenez.
It's right there.
Jimenez,
yeah, Jimenez. I always want to say
I
the
thought it
other
was a Jimenez cover still.
Yeah.
Oh, is it not?
No, mine. My
okay.
cover. Yeah.
I'll be honest. A lot of the time when I get them digitally, I don't pay that much attention to the cover until we get to our best of the
Right.
show.
Mhm.
And in the credits page at the back, it says Jimenez and More as the cover. So I
Yeah,
just
that's what I was gonna say.
assumed. But
Yeah, that's definitely not Jimenez and Mori, right? Like,
let me go back and look at it. No, not. March's signature's there as
that's
well.
March. Yeah, where's it at?
On the right, underneath
there.
the best
I
toys.
see it. Yeah, okay. So I you made me feel like I was crazy for a minute, and I was like, did I mistake Jimenez for?
No, it's a misprint in the credits.
Okay.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So let's rate it then. Matt, what are you giving it?
Well, I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Like it's fine. The art does a lot of the heavy lifting. But yeah, I started closer I got to the end, the more I wasn't enjoying as much. So
Connor?
It's a straight 7 from me. I think it's pretty good. I'm kind of into it, but I'm not loving it.
10 for me. Ice pop and snow cone. Easy peasy. No, I'll probably go a bit straight 8. I think I'm leaning a little bit higher, and I'm kind of digging the overall feel of like the kind of the big sort of citywide. Batman's mission as a whole is really in question because he's lost Alfred and all that stuff. The personal beats to it, and yes, snow cone and ice pop get some points. So there you go. Justice League issue 50, Cy Spurrier writing with Aaron Lopresti on the art. This is the double size special issue 50, which actually just acts as essentially issues 3 and 4 of a 4-issue arc. It just happens to be one big issue. So Connor forgot to read this week.
I will read it. I will be back on for the next issue. I genuinely did not realize this was out. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I've been enjoying this arc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I need this to be a double-sized issue. I kind of felt a little bit, and I don't know if it's just because it's the page count and I had other stuff to read or what, but I was feeling a little bit because it's definitely been like a B tier, just kind of alright book, right? It's not been one of the more exciting things. Ultimately, I'm going to kind of gloss over some of the fighting and whatnot. The big thing in this issue is that Batman starts to act a little out of character, and it's intentional because they'll start noticing it. It's like, wait, why is Batman suggesting such weird stuff? Because at one point Batman says, they've got mind control tech. Why don't we just mind control everyone? And I immediately went, wait a minute, like, in Infinite Crisis, you were so anti-mind control. This is like, I mean, we've got an actual big example of Batman being so against this. It is explained, though, there is a reason for it. The former queen is kind of controlling him with a device on his forehead. If you remember, Batman was kind of confronted at the end of the last issue. We didn't really see the outcome of that. So, they continue to struggle with what's going on. More audio clips of what the Justice League are saying to each other when they're fighting are taken out of context and played to the populace. The 2 kids they saved on the original ship that they found, one of them went the cyborg route, one's went the metahuman route, and they basically hate each other now. Like, they've turned into like complete rivals. They refuse to be in a room with each other, and it's through these 2 that Wonder Woman kind of tries to find common ground, and by the end of the book kind of convinces them to work with each other as kind of an example that they can kind of forge ahead and all that. Ultimately, they find out that the Queen was kind of behind everything and that she wanted to start this war with this other planet, mainly because all this with the Justice League would ultimately have the population kind of beg to be like taken over and like want to be ruled and want to be submissive, and that's different from forcing it. So that's what she wanted. That's what she's hoping to get. But Wonder Woman records some of what she says and plays it back to everyone, and finally is able to kind of convince them that, hey, maybe you can go forward, maybe you can coexist, and so on, because all of their differences are basically just all fabricated anyway. So I've kind of like quickly sped through the gist of what happens in the issue. That's kind of the whole thing, but it is like 48 pages of story. It takes a while to get there. There's a lot of fighting with the ships in the sky. There's the debates between the characters. Some bickering here or there. The art's pretty solid, if not special, but that just kind of goes with the last couple issues. And the character beats. Sometimes the characters sound a little bit catty with each other. There's a point where Flash at one point says to one, "Oh, drop it, Diana," or something like that. There's just little snipes at each other that feels a little bit testy. But yeah, ultimately, Wonder Woman actually, there's like a reveal later on that Batman's been faking being mind controlled for a little bit, because Wonder Woman used the lasso to sort of deactivate the device, and then ultimately that's how they kind of win by the end. But yeah, so I mean, I know Connor's complaints was kind of Wonder Woman was on her own side and no one was really siding with her, and ultimately here she's sort of discovered to be like in the right essentially, where ultimately she was in the right the whole time.
I'm shocked.
But yeah, so it's all right. It was perfectly readable. It's kind of one of those things where I would have probably preferred reading this as two separate issues, just because I don't think I was into the story enough to really want to sit down while I've got other books to read, to sit down and read like a 50-page or 40 whatever page onslaught.
Is there a obvious split point? Does it does it feel like this was always could have been 2 issues, or like you could read this in 2 sittings, or is it just it's been adapted into one pretty neatly?
It's pretty clear that it was always written as one story, but I don't think it would take too much from the writer to,
split it neatly,
structure it and just sort of decide what your cliffhanger is. I feel like the cliffhanger, maybe Batman being mind controlled or something could be the cliffhanger. You'd have to juggle around the order of a couple of things maybe, but you could have done
too
something
complicated.
Yeah. So they leave and the planet's got a chance, and yeah, that's basically it. It's all right. I don't have a whole lot of further analysis other than what we've said before about this arc. So next issue we start off in the death metal tie-ins. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
No.
Right?
No.
No, we got the Jeff Loveness 2-issue arc first.
So we get a month of another thing, and then we get the death metal tie-ins. Okay.
Yeah. Jeff Loveness, I believe he's known for being a Rick and Morty writer.
Okay.
So no idea what to expect.
Yeah, because I assume the humor that he normally has in that won't carry over to a Justice League comic.
Yeah, I think he's done a couple of Marvel books like recently, like in the last few months. So.
He did the last Shazam book before John's came back.
Oh yeah, and I like that issue.
He did the fill-in.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was solid enough. Matt, are you going to read the 2-issue thing, or are you waiting until the death metal?
Well, I'll see in what the weeks look like if I have time, because I'm even behind on the Venditti Superman that I really like. Just because, again, it's hockey's fault.
So much sports.
It is. I can't Anyways.
I was up to date on my movies, one a day for the whole year, and then the Snooker World Championship started, and now I've watched 3 in the past.
Well, hold on. So let me rate this just for the clean cut on YouTube.
Go ahead.
God damn it. So I'll probably just give it a straight 7. It's fine. It's fine. Readable. Art's not bad, but nothing to write home about. So there you go. That's just C50. You may continue your point, should you wish to.
No, I got it all in.
That's excellent. I'm so glad. All right. So next up, we have Young Justice issue 17. Brian Michael Bendis and David F. Walker writing, with Scott Godlewski on the art. And so obviously me and Matt are reading this. We were kind of not so much critical of the last issue, but we were very we looked back at the run last time and we're kind of critical of the overall feeling of it. I think what's interesting about this issue is I think this issue might be the best, if not one of the best issues of the whole run. But it doesn't address what we were saying before, but as a standalone issue, it's really good.
That's really interesting. The only review, I say review, I've seen a headline of this book, of a review, and it was calling it the most forgettable issue of the book yet.
No, because stuff happens here. The main problem is Bendis is kind of all over the place with his timeline. Right, so if you're following Bendis' timeline, everything fits in perfectly. From Naomi, this issue takes place 2 days after Naomi ends, because she's talking about she's only had her powers for 2 days.
Well, we can be more specific than that. It takes place after the fight in Action Comics with the Legion of Doom and all that.
That's what I was going to get to. And then it also takes place in between what's going on in Action right now and what had happened in Action, right? So it's a bit of a mess there, but everything that's being talked about in this issue is really good. Well, so I wouldn't say it's forgettable, but
I would say it's one of the best issues of the whole run so far, because it's so focused. Yeah. It starts off with this introduction of Yolanda, this character who her dad owns this food truck, and he's basically in Metropolis because he He wants to like sort of like help the people who are like, because they're basically clearing the rubble from the big fight, right? So it's kind of like a post disaster zone style thing, and he's there to just give out free food to the not only the Justice League but also the policemen, the firefighters, all that. And
because that's what you do in Metropolis, you help, and that's again, that's a thing.
So Yolanda is kind of tasked with giving out the water. She has to create a water, and she goes out into the rubble. And it's basically all from her perspective as she watches like different members of the Titans, the Young Justice and the Justice League interact. So we have a little bit of Superman and Connor, we have Wonder Woman and Cassie, we have Bart and Barry. We don't get to hear what Tim and Batman talk about, but it's a really funny page where I think it's Connor and Bart are just kind of looking at each other and kind of reacting, like and sort of speculating, but just looks in their faces, what's going on with the conversation. There's funny little bits where Jenny's kind of like thirsting after Wonder Woman because she's like, "Hey Cassie, what's Wonder Woman's deal? Is she single?"
That's
my aunt. Yeah. So what's the deal? Is she single?
Yeah, I thought that was really
that was funny.
Really funny.
That was pretty funny. The art's really good. I thought as well.
Also, that's a change to Cass, right? That I thought Zeus was her dad as well. I should say Cassie.
No, Zeus is her grandfather. So.
Here, but traditionally I thought that was a whole thing that Zeus was her dad because her mom's an archaeologist, and Zeus does what Zeus does, man. Zeus gets around.
He does get around. That's very clear.
So but I did like that. If it is a change, I like here that she calls Wonder Woman Auntie Diana, which I thought that's a nice touch there, and it shows because even though we haven't had Cassie at all, right? Like it wasn't until Young Justice we really saw her. Play.
I mean, if she did show up anywhere, it was briefly in a cameo or something.
Right.
Yeah, there was no.
So right there, it already tells us what their relationship's like, right? That they're close enough.
That's the thing about this issue. So the one I like that it comes from this perspective of this outsider who's kind of in awe of all these characters. So it's got a really nice sort of focus in that sense. But it's also an issue that finally slows down and lets them all just kind of react to the big stuff that's happening. I think what's really weird about it, though, is that it's the aftermath of something that happened in another Bendis book and not the aftermath of something big that happened in Young Justice, because nothing in Young Justice has felt, story-wise, on its own, big enough to have this kind of aftermath to it. So I think that's kind of almost a critique, I suppose. But the weird thing here, though, is that it slows down and it gives all these characters these beats. I don't understand why this issue is happening here, though. This should have been like 2 or 3 issues ago. I don't understand why this is now.
Anything that happened here could have happened before the last 2 issues where they do the Star Labs thing.
Yeah.
And then Bart has his crisis of, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Everything's a mess and whatnot. So yeah, man, it just, like you say that there's good focus, but it also feels a little unfocused in the grand scheme of things.
Like, the book as a whole feels a bit unfocused. This issue feels focused, though.
I know, but that's why I didn't want to get it confused. I don't want people to think that I was correcting and saying this is because this issue is very focused. But Young Justice still feels like there's not a point outside of these feel-good moments, which is fine because, not all comics can be the same. And there's a lot of really good feel-good moments here, like with Bart and Barry. And they go into the Speed Force to have their conversation, and as they're going through, that feels really nice. And then Cassie and Wonder Woman, and just their little thing here, and I also, you see Teen Lantern interacting with Jon Stewart, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it's the foreground rather than the background, but you don't get to see what it is, but you get to see them interacting. And I like that when Bart is like told by Barry, "Hey, you're kind of in the moment. Like enjoy what you have. This family of characters." And he looks over at the rest of Young Justice, and I like that Naomi was included in that lineup. Because it's Naomi plus the rest of the main team, which maybe implies to me that Naomi might become a permanent member at some point down the line. But so here's the weird thing that I'll say is that I'm not actually like none of my problems that we were talking about last issue have been dealt with. And I'm still concerned that next issue I'm going to have a lot of the same problems again, going back to the Bart mystery and all that, and the whole run feeling a bit unfocused and feeling like it's not really got a direction. I think this issue on its own, like this could have a good run around it. It could have the run that we have around it. I think this issue on its own works quite well for what it's doing. Again, I think that perspective of having someone who's not a hero kind of looking up to them is fairly well done. And then it ends with her, becoming an intern at the Hall of Justice and meeting the Wonder Twins, which was a neat
That's
little
really cool
touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So especially since at the start of the issue she's complaining, oh, why do we have to do this? Oh, this is like, why did you drag
She's
me
being
out
a
before the
typical
weekend?
teenager that you see in pop culture, like dad.
But there's an arc.
You know?
She's inspired.
Yeah.
She understands things when I mean Tim stays back to help her load the truck up when everyone else has left, and it's this nice little beat.
And I like how she does comment that she could never do what they do because she doesn't have powers. And I love that Tim looks at her and goes, "Yeah, neither do I," and then just keeps going about his business. Like, it was a real nice moment. His costume still looks like garbage.
Oh yeah.
Like let's fix that. There's two Superboys right now. There's no reason why he can't be Robin at the same time as Damian. Yep. There's really none. Like, come on, man.
I know, but yeah. So, like, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's like, a knockout of the park amazing issue, but I thought it was really solid, and it felt like, well, it's mildly frustrating that it's still kind of ignoring all the things that I think the book needs to address, especially after the fact that the last issue kind of felt like it was setting up to jump back in the timeline. So that's kind of weird. I think on its own in the vacuum, this was a solid, focused issue, dealing with the awe of these characters, but the actual problems with the book as a whole aren't alleviated because of it, unfortunately.
No, I was a little bit annoyed when I got to it and I saw it was this type of issue that was going to go around to them, because I want it to be refocused on what is this book's, like, as lame as this is going to sound, what is its mission statement? Like, is it meant to have these moments like with Yolanda, and we see how Young Justice inspires, the younger people? Because I feel like that's what Wonder Comics was supposed to be about, with Naomi and the Wonder Twins and Dial H, right? It was all about them being this focal point for other young people. But Young Justice is like they've jumped around the multiverse, and
it just feels aimless. It feels aimless.
I want to know what Bendis wants to do with this book, because again, he has a timeline. Like, he's threading this into his Superman timeline, for lack of a better term. That all of his books fit into.
But Superman feels like it's got a purpose. It feels like he's got some sort of grand plan there, and it feels like that when you're reading it. It feels like it's always got a point and a purpose. I feel like this book, he's using the characters from it to tie into it whenever it's convenient to do so, but it doesn't necessarily feel like this book on its own has much of its own direction.
No.
And as a result, it does kind of feel like
it feels supplemental.
I wouldn't even go that far. It feels just kind of, because for the most part, it's maybe doing its own thing. It's just kind of, I don't know. It feels like a whiff of a thing. Bendis on Young Justice sounds like such an exciting concept.
Yeah.
But 17 issues in, it's not the sort of Bendis run we were hoping for in this book.
I almost wish you just handed over to Walker, or just get a plotted by, because I'd love to see what Walker did, because I really enjoyed his Power Man and Iron Fist. Yeah, it was him, right? Yeah. So that was fun until it was forced to tie into a bunch of Marvel BS. So I'd like to see what he would do with these young heroes, unchained from Bendis's name, But yeah, it definitely feels lower on Bendis's priority list at this point, and I get it. Like, when you're working on Superman and reviving Legion and whatever's happening with Checkmate and Leviathan, that's still going on at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like your Superman stuff is the stuff that's the priority, and then Legion and Young Justice, to varying degrees, feel kind of like these supplemental books that hopefully find their footing. But we're 17 issues into this one now, so I mean, not being there yet with this is starting to feel a bit worrying that this is ultimately going to be like his Guardians of the Galaxy run, where it's just kind of, Bendis wrote that for a while, but ultimately it wasn't that.
And it was fun, but it got lost in him tying it into X-Men, right? Like,
I mean, this is fine. Just like that run was fine, and it ultimately doesn't. It's not noteworthy. We're not really going to talk about it that much in the future, other than when he has another run like this, and we can maybe compare it back to these previous runs.
I mean, at the end of the day, I am glad that I get to see Bart and Cassie and Tim and Connor all interacting, and we have Teen Lantern and Jenny Hex as new additions, and Naomi.
One of my pet peeves with social media, because I follow a decent amount of comic fans and comic creators on Twitter, is there's so many people who get really upset that their character doesn't have a book, their favorite character or their favorite characters, And obviously, there's lots of characters that I want to have books, that I want to have a presence and representation in the comics. But a lot of people are just satiated with the thing existing. The actual it having to be good also doesn't seem to factor into it too much, where that's still a concern. Like, there's a point where I would rather it's in some cases not be a thing. Like right now, I don't want this Nightwing book to be a thing. Just I want real Nightwing. Flash forward, yes, there you go.
Oh yeah.
So like I think it's worth saying that just because the thing exists, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the version of the thing that we actually want or deserve. Or
no, but at the same point, this is not on those levels of some of this other stuff. Like.
Oh no, I'm just making a wider point about how people, like some people will fight tooth and nail about saving a book from being cancelled. But then I look at the book they're talking about, like, I want a good version of this character to be on the stands, but this version of the book that we have right now ain't it. Like, it ain't good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I get that. Because, like, man, I miss all my other Lanterns right now.
Sure.
So, like, I get it, but at the same time, I'd rather have, a good book, a good Jess book with Guy popping in there from time to time.
Yeah.
Than just have one to have for the sake of having one.
And just to sort of sum that up, I'm not saying Young Justice is that bad, because it isn't, but it's definitely not as good as the Young Justice book that I want.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and it's like this. We're lucky that we're getting, Cass, Batgirl character, Kane, I was drawing a blank, in Batman and the Outsiders, so that's where we're getting both.
For a few
that book's
issues.
enjoyable to read, and she's getting used. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for a few issues more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyway, what are you giving Young Justice?
I'm gonna give this a 7.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 too. And I realized that I said this is one of the best issues, and I've probably rated older issues higher because when it first came back, I was kind of high on it.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised because I know you've had problems with the last handful of issues, especially, but. And when you said, "Oh, this was the best issue yet," or probably the best issue, I was expecting it to be at least in the 8s, and I wasn't like listening to the entire discussion, just hearing bits and pieces. The 7 surprises me.
First Sector issue 7, N.K. Jemisin writing with Jamal Campbell on the art, which is now every other month. And this, no, I'd completely forgotten what the cliffhanger was from last night. I actually had to go back and check because I was so confused at the start of this issue. I had no idea what was going on, which. It's not so much a fault of the book because when it's every other month, like a lot of books would suffer from this, but it definitely, I was like, okay, I need to check. I just
I've struggled with worse books, far less.
So, yeah, this is there's some interesting concepts here. The first half of it's basically Joe in her sort of Green Lantern mech suit, and by mech suit I just mean created of the green light, not like an actual mech suit.
But it's designed like
yeah. And so
she can fight the actual mechs.
Yeah, so she can fight the actual mechs that have beings inside of the ambassador that was kind of like called her in the first place. And we discovered throughout this that the AT-AT, the technological, the computerized race, they can essentially invade a body and take it over. They can reprogram the biology, as it were, as put. And it usually means though whoever they've taken over is dead and has been dead for a while.
Sounds like they essentially reformat the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what she sounds like, a computer.
Yeah.
And it's deadly, but they can do it. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Joe's so pissed about this when eventually, she takes down because she eventually wins the fight, and the mechs are down, but the bodies inside are just gone, like they're just dead. Right. And the people, the AT-ATs who were controlling them have escaped into the network, right, into the digital network. Right. And Joe's like, you know what? I'm going to use this green ring to jack into the network, cyberpunk style, and go in there. There's multiple references to various cyberpunk stuff, actually, as she's forming this plan. The AT-AT that's talking to her is trying to talk her out of it, but she's not having any of it. She's going in. She won't be persuaded otherwise. And so sure enough, there's a quick little flashback of her getting the ring. Interesting detail here about how the willpower for this works. It's not the same as the other rings. The willpower is more specific. It's not the willpower that you have to overcome fear. It's the willpower you have to coexist with the fear. Which, as the Guardian here puts it, spikes lower, but if you can master it, it could be formidable.
Yeah, I think that line that he says, it's to live with fear, to push towards a goal over years against a whole society with no hope or reward was pretty poignant.
Yeah. Also,
Mhm.
Connor, aim your fan somewhere else to turn it off, will you?
The fan's not even on anymore.
Is it not?
Yeah.
I'm hearing rumbling, and I think it's doing something to like Skype's like the way it's using your mic is trying to like process it out, so you're sounding more tinny because of it.
Yeah, hang on.
So,
But yeah, with the different drink, I did like that, but that's I mean, that's the lesson of Hal Jordan that we keep getting, because he rides with the fear. That's always his thing,
mhm.
So it's like, how special actually is this ring? Was this just something they told her to, you know, because they sent her off to the city, the enduring.
I like the idea that it's different because she did not get this with a battery like the other rings. This is definitely
Right.
not a
That's true
knockoff,
too.
but it's definitely something separate from the Green Lantern
know.
core.
I just feel like if you're not entrenched in Green Lantern lore, if you just picked this book up because it was something new, then that perfectly works. But as someone that's read most Green Lantern stuff since about 2004, I'm like, this is, I don't know. This is tried and true Green Lantern territory, which is great for Jemisin, right? Because that means that she's done her work on Green Lanterns and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make me like this any less. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah. So she jacks in to the network, and basically it's like just a world that's living in there, and the time runs differently as well because she only has power for 6 minutes of being in here, but as is mentioned earlier on, like it's been like weeks down there for the people who have fled.
Right.
So
even though it's only been like 2 or 3 minutes up there.
So she has time when she's in there. The coloring completely changes. It's all very white and lots of pale colors. At one point, she makes a couple of Tron bikes. Again, reference to a computer cyberpunk type movie. And she's going after the bad guys. She's struggling with the concept of like they don't actually have to travel from place to place because she ends up just appearing at this diner. And she's like confused by it, and she's all like, "This is weird. Like I don't, it's like, oh, we don't have to travel. It's not physical places in the same way."
Yeah, and she has to figure out how to adjust to that. Is kind of the back, half of this issue.
Yeah. She's trying to deal with it, but of course they go hunting. Notably, they're wearing leather trench coats when they go to actually confront the attackers.
The one she's with is straight up wearing the Trinity's catsuit.
Yeah, and she's got the trench coat on, so we're definitely getting some Matrix vibes from this. And which is actually the cliffhanger. It's just them getting to the bad guys and being like basically on guard, for lack of a better term.
Pretty much, yeah. Lots of little bits in here that are fun. Her sharing the Doge meme. I was smart in the dialogue as well that it did the whole thing. Because obviously they talk about cat memes earlier on.
Yeah, so
this comes up.
The almost starts singing Hakuna Matata at one point.
Yeah. A lot of fun in the back half of this issue.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest complaint is I just had no idea what was going on when I started. I had to go back and check the last issue, just the end of it, to see what happened at the end of the last issue.
Yeah.
It's keeping its quality, which is great. Like it keeps going, and the mystery is still there. And now it seems like the AT-AT are more because they are what they say they were forced to become this, so they were almost like when the city started, you had the two, right? The plant, the Katopli, and then I forget the other one. The councilman is. It's almost like they had these virtual assistants, right? That became the AT-AT. They became their own type, right? And so now they're dealing with what does that mean? Like, I don't want to say like the singularity, right? But now they have their own culture going on beneath what was supposed to be this culture without the emotions there. So I think that's real cool.
No, I think this issue and last issue have both felt very kind of focused, which I think I appreciate. So even if you are maybe like not necessarily remembering all the broad details of the entire world, they've both been very focused here because it was last issue was Joe and the one ambassador and kind of their like romantic connection. It was very focused on that. This issue, very focused on kind of exploring the AT-AT and in the network and all that kind of stuff. So I think it sits better in your memory, especially when you have like a whole issue focused on one sort of aspect, one detail. Because that first couple of issues were such an info dump in terms of mythology, compared
Yeah,
to the
I'm
rest of
glad
it.
those were monthly.
Yeah,
I would have struggled with this book if those had been every other month.
yeah. So, no, I think once again I'll say I do think this will read better in a binge when you can read like all 12 issues in one
Probably. I
quick
think it's
succession.
pacing reasonably well right now because we're what, 2/3 through now. It feels like, okay, the back half we're focusing in, we're actually drawing in on the mystery and the crux of it now. So the overall pacing still feels solid.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving Far Sector issue 7?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
8 for me as well.
Cool. I'll probably 7.5 for me. All right, so there we go. So that takes us to the part of the show though where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art. So that was the word I was trying to think of, and top 5 books of the week. So we'll start off with panel / moment. So Matt, what you got for us?
So I'm gonna go with that. What fair play means after
Sure.
Mr. Terrific just smacked the taste out of Stardust's mouth. That was so fantastic.
Yeah, that was great.
Connor?
I'm going to go with the song the first time we see that because it made me laugh, and that's already chosen. The other great moment.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
book's full of them.
yeah. I mean, I'm really trying to find a reason not to go with Strange Adventures. You know what? I think I will go with something else. I'm going to go with the Plastic Man reveal. And
That one's pretty good too.
Yeah, as an individual moment. Although I don't think that Snow Cone and Ice Pop weren't in the running, because they were.
Yeah.
So best cover of the week. So I was having a quick peek here. There's a few good ones. Far Sector tends to have 2 really good covers. The DCeased
cover this time.
Yeah, the DCeased variant, which is doing the Book of Eli with Cyborg, is pretty neat. I think I have to be boring though and go with one of the Strange Adventures covers because they're both very good.
I like the Strange Adventures covers. I think they're out of the Strange Adventures covers we've had, they're probably my least favorites.
I think that's fair. I really like the white one with Adam Strange though. I think there's something kind of. I think the starkness of it really speaks to me.
I think that's the Shayna one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
solid.
Connor?
There's a lot of reasonable choices, but none are jumping out at me. I also quite like the variants for both Justice League and Young Justice. Young Justice is a nice Maker and Dolpho cover. I think it's pretty, it's nice and clean.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll give it ultimately to the Far Sector variant, but both of those are pretty good as well.
All right, cool. Matt?
I'm gonna go with the Gerads Strange Adventures cover. It's I think that's Gerads, right? With Mr. Terrific.
The main one's Gerads, yeah.
Yeah, the main one. Yeah, with the space and his face comes out of there, and it's just it looks really cool.
All right, Cara, what's the best art of the week?
It's Strange Adventures.
Matt?
Strange Adventures.
Yeah, nothing else stands a chance this week.
Yeah.
Half
of our conversation on that came from the art.
Yeah, I know.
Right? There was no other option.
We talked about that art for probably 15 minutes on its own. So yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt. Go.
Number 1, Strange Adventures. Number 2 is DCeased, Dead Planet. 3 is Far Sector. 4 is Batman. 5 is Young Justice.
Mine's the same, but Legends, the Dark Knight instead of Young Justice.
Okay. My number 1 is Strange Adventures. My number 2 is DCeased. Number 3 is Batman. Number 4 is Legends of the Dark Knight. And then number 5 is Far Sector. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. A pretty solid week, all in, to be honest. I felt good about most of the books I read, so that's always good. So I'll tell you what's coming next week now from DC Comics. We have Detective Comics 1025. We have The Flash 759, Wonder Woman 760, Superman 24. We have Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 3, so that's the biggie for the week. Justice League Odyssey 23, Batman's Grave number 9, Green Lantern season 2 issue 6, Hawkman 26, and Batman The Outsiders 15. So a handful of books next week to look at, and yeah, so we'll look forward to those. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month of August. So thank you to Alison M. Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palisades, David Schott, Board Now, Zammer Jammer, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, and Brett Williams. They are all Patreon producers for the month, which you can become at the $20 tier at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But of course, you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and it gets some bonuses for your troubles. At the $5 tier, you get the episodes a day early, and you also get to vote occasionally on previously. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. A free way to support us, of course, if you're on YouTube watching, you can just hit the like button. Liking's really important on YouTube. Helps us find new people. So please do that. Or as Matt would say, smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
There you go. You can, of course, rate the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. 5 stars. We review. Same principle. Otherwise, get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, which is a good place for updates and asking us questions. Whenever we ask questions for the show, most of them tend to come from Twitter. But there is an email as well, mftvquestions@gmail.com. Should you wish to send a nice long question for when we have a quieter week, please do that too. I think I've successfully just plugged everything. I guess I'll just say that Doom Patrol Season 2 finished this week, so the review of the finale's up for me and Connor. The Stargirl finale's coming in the next couple of days, which we're looking forward to, because that show has done nothing but get better over the course of the season. And yeah, so recommend it. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. So I will thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Fair play.